Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 220. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor's here too.
I am.
It's a DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC Comics every week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal issue 1. We got The Flash 762, Suicide Squad number 9, Action Comics 1025, Aquaman 63, Justice League Dark 26, Batman Superman 12, Shazam 15, and I've got a Patreon book at least. I don't know if Connor did one as well.
No, I decided to save it for next week because I was running a bit late. Been a busy day.
Yeah, week 5 next week. I've got some more for next week too, but I got one in this week, so yeah, there you go. So that's what's coming up on the show today. Normally we start off with some news or whatever, but there just isn't any this week.
There's some of them pretty big movie-wise. They cast Hawkman.
Oh, there's some movie stuff. True. I always, for some reason, I don't always think of the movie side of things when we come to do the news.
Well, I didn't have any other comic book news other than there might be some spoilers for a book coming out next week that I don't want to talk about. But movie news will suffice. Which that actor Aldous Hodge, I didn't realize he's American with a name like Aldous Hodge. I just figured he was one of you guys.
Yes, I believe I saw him in The Invisible Man. I think that's what he was in earlier this year.
And if you've seen Friday Night Lights, he was Voodoo, which I did not recognize him in Invisible Man as Voodoo. Who's I think it's season 3. He comes in from New Orleans because of Katrina, and he doesn't fit in with Coach Taylor's system. So that's where we get Vince. So we had him. And so Killmonger and now Hawkman in a season of TV together. It's pretty wild. Yeah,
I've never seen Friday Night Lights, but it seems like it's exactly a show that Matt would love from the sounds of it.
Take out season 2. Season 2 is really bad. But the other seasons, it is fantastic. If you don't watch that first episode, and if you don't get invested, you don't even have to like sports. It transcends sports. It's that good. So, guys, pay Pete to watch Friday Night Lights.
So random.
Matt's tactic though is just to try and convince people to pay me to watch things.
Because Pete, if they dangle money in front of you, will you say no?
Well, probably not. But I mean, it's a whole TV show. That's a pretty big investment for everyone involved.
I mean, pay him to watch the first episode.
Oh, right.
And if you don't get hooked, so that's how I got my mother-in-law hooked. She was like, I don't want to watch teen drama football stuff. I was like, just watch the first episode, and it got her. So,
oh, dear.
Yeah. But anyways, Aldous Hodge, Hawkman, pretty exciting, I think, because the fact that we're getting Hawkman in a movie is pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know too much from the set. I've seen Invisible Man, so I guess it's in that, but I don't.
He was
I don't remember him standing out in it. I mean, I'm sure he was.
Oh, so
I don't remember him being bad either, though. So that's a good sign.
No, as the kind of protector of Elizabeth Moss, he doesn't have much to do because she carries the movie.
Should put that on his resume, protector of Elizabeth Moss.
I mean, that is his role in that movie, right? I can't remember his name, but I remember him in it. So, but no,
I'm just glad it's not Hunnam. Boring bastard.
Sure, I like Hunnam, but whatever. But no, I think it's a good casting, and it's especially if what Black Adam's going to deal with, and you got the JSA. Think it'll be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I did kind of drop out of nowhere. Like that was a little yesterday, I think, but it has been a pretty quiet week overall. I mean, Supergirl's ending. Was that something we could mention? TV show, that is.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with, just diminishing returns, or she's a mom now.
Yeah, she'll. I don't know if she's given birth yet, but she will have done by the time they're shooting.
Yeah, I think she has. I think Ash told me. She keeps up to date with all the celebrity stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I said this on Twitter, but basically my feelings on this is that I'm sad, but I'm not sad because it's ending. I'm sad because I don't care that it's ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember those. I mean, especially after season 1, where we really didn't know what was going to happen with it. We were hoping that this gets renewed somewhere. We were like, oh, please let this exist for a season 2, and that's when it moved to CW, and
Yeah.
In retrospect, it was the beginning of the end,
It was in a lot of ways.
but we didn't know that at the time.
It became the quintessential CW show, and
over about 2 seasons, because it wasn't like an immediate shift to, oh, this is a CW show now, but over those next 2 seasons, it was like just slowly chipping away, and now it's like now it just fits the CW mold. It's hard to
I always feel like
it.
the superhero shows would do so much better if there's only 12 or 13 of them versus the full 22.
You mean episodes? I thought you meant 12 or 13 shows. I was like,
that too. But I definitely feel, because there are some good stuff in there, like the last season I watched was heavy on the Legion stuff, and the stuff they did with Neuronal and Brainiac and all that stuff was always pretty well handled.
Obviously, I haven't watched half of the last season, but I still like most of the characters in it, and there are some that Wynn's great. I really like Dreamer, their take on that. I think she's a really good character.
But so there was always good in there, and I even thought that what's his name, Star Killer, Connor, help me out here.
Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer. I thought that as heavy-handed as it was, I thought he was good.
He's good in
that role. Yeah, so there's little pieces over there, but just for the I can't take the 22 in or out.
Yeah. I mean, 13 to 16 is probably as much as all of those shows should have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and look at what Marvel's doing over on Disney Plus. Those are like smaller movies, 6 to 7 episodes. Like the Mando. Looking like WandaVision's going to be that mold too.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen any of these yet, though, so I wouldn't necessarily compare them because we don't know. They could still suck.
But I can compare it to The Mandalorian, which same kind of budget, you'd guess. Right?
I mean, maybe, but I mean, it's not really the same, though, is it? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
I think it's a bit of an unfair comparison anyway, because they're doing completely different things. I think the closest and fairest comparison is something like Stargirl, which is a CW show now, but was a DC Universe show to start with, and it felt, maybe it had a slightly higher budget, but it felt like a network show from the start, like that old school network style show. It was just better in pretty much every single way.
Or we can just do Doom Patrol, which are 10, 11 episodes, right?
I think there's I hate to feed into this narrative too much, though, because it's becoming a bit of a crutch for people to say, oh, it would just be better with less episodes. I don't think that actually solves the writing problems in any of these shows.
I don't know. I feel like they feel like
it would cut down. It would probably improve it by about 30%, because at least there would be 30% less times they'd be repeating the same points.
It'd still be the same terrible writers, though.
Oh no, it would. It would just be less of the terrible writing, so it's better.
It's like a weekly terrible writer versus a monthly terrible writer. You don't have to deal with it once a month, right?
Sure.
Anyway, I just think they'd be better that way. Just I feel that even with comics too. We always talked about the double shippers and how sometimes they felt a little bit bloated because they had to take up space. When it comes to comics, versus
I mean, it's honestly, it's just a simple case of CW's writing quality is just really bad, and there's nothing that says you can't have a high quality 22 episode season that's mostly good. Shows have done it in the past. Shows could do it again, but
shows have done it in the recent past too, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, there's examples of doing it. I don't think the episode counts can help, and it is better in many a circumstance.
I just want to say, Lost got infinitely better when they dropped the episode count and knew where they were going. I'm just saying.
Lost season 3 is the best season of the show, and that wasn't one of the short ones, so I highly disagree with that.
Is that what Stranger was? Which was season 2? Was season 2 Strangers in a Strange Land?
That was one episode of season 3.
Okay. Yeah, that got oof.
But season 3 is still the best season of the show overall, though.
I'll take your word for it. I've only watched them all once, so
I will stand in that hill. It's all down to writing quality. I mean, we could talk about episode counts all we want, but I don't think it actually matters that much in the grand scheme. So if the writing team knows how to fill that number of episodes, it doesn't matter. It can be a 70 episode season. They'll just write content for 70 episodes and know what they're doing, or they can write content for 10 episodes and know what they're doing.
I can't wait to drop this on Office UK people that are like, oh, it's better because there's less episodes. It didn't get time to get annoying. And I'm like, hey, go talk to Pete. He says more equals better.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
That's what I heard.
And I think US Office is better, but here's the thing. It did reach a point where it went too long, but it reached that point around season 6-ish, not not after 12.
It was probably still by the time it had outstayed its welcome, it was probably still 5 times longer than the UK Office at that point, right?
Oh yeah, easily. And I just bring that up because that's something I always see, But
that is,
I don't know.
That is one of those rare examples where I prefer the US version. Like 9 times out of 10, I think
there's more.
I tend to prefer.
Well, but like
UK
Pete was saying, you can do stuff with more episode counts, and not everyone's a winner. But when you have that cast and you have so many people to play off of, and you're invested in Dwight as much as you are in Michael and Jim and Pam.
I think ultimately for me, like the UK Office is extremely funny. Don't get me wrong, I love it still. But you don't have the same attachment to the characters that get to actually grow and do stuff over the course of years.
I found UK Office funny when I watched it, but I've watched it once and I have no desire to go back. Whereas the US Office, I am pretty sure I will go back and watch at least the good seasons again. The thought of sitting through season 8 of The Office again is not something I want
rough.
to do.
We started a bit of a rewatch because they've been on TV. So if they're on, we'll watch them, and we can always tell once it hits to that point, we don't want to watch anymore. Once it gets to season 7-ish and whatnot. So unlike Parks, which we can watch every season.
Parks is the better show. I will die in that hill. With The Office, once Michael's left, just skip and watch the finale, because the finale was surprisingly good for what it was. It's just that there was like 2.5 crap seasons.
It was pretty much the best finale they could have possibly done at that point, though, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Hi.
Casual cameo. Anyway, let's talk about DC
Let's
Comics.
talk about comics, because there's no news. We digressed on TV, which I really shouldn't, because I watch more sports than I watch TV anymore. Thanks, hockey.
Yeah. Won't catch me doing that.
No, of course not.
No.
Give it time.
Connor, real quick.
Yeah.
Do you understand cricket?
The basics.
Okay. This is for offline. I will message you.
Okay.
I saw a cricket thing. I had so many questions.
I mean,
I was like,
depending on what it is, I might have questions myself. But I mean, I've watched the odd game. I can follow it usually.
Gotcha. I just want a cricket bat at the end of the day, like Casey Jones. The first Turtles.
Sure. Yeah. I've owned many a cricket bat in the past.
I was watching a Jack Whitehall special, and they were in Australia, and they went to go play cricket, and I was like, I don't understand this game. Like I thought it was just like baseball with a flat bat. It is not.
No. Oh no.
So, yeah. Connor, the only reason I asked, and I'm going to fill people, Connor filled me in on snooker, and now I kind of understand it. So, yeah.
Oh dear.
Best sport.
All right, we can move on to comics then. While I die a little bit in the inside.
So you can talk Mighty Ducks anytime you want, Pete.
I'm good just now. Maybe I'll be in the mid later. But yeah, we'll get into this week's comics. Dark Knight's Death Metal Speed Metal issue 1. Awkwardly long title with multiple colons. There's no need for it.
I'm surprised you didn't want to talk about this after the Flash issue.
I mean, that's the order I read it, and I would recommend reading it that way. I don't think it actually matters in the context of.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't read Flash. I just saw the notes and what it was referencing.
So this kind of, not that it spoils the end of Flash, but you can tell Williamson kind of wrote this where he knew Barry was going. So there's stuff that happens there, but I read Flash and then this. I don't think it really matters.
I think if you're reading Flash, I would read it first. If you're not reading Flash, I think you'll be fine reading this. I
managed okay for the record.
Either way, not to tip my hand, both made me feel extremely good about the Flash, which I think is Williamson's strength. I know we hated on that, but in short bursts here, he really knows the way around the mythos.
We complained for about a year and a half about how bad the Flash comic was, and Matt came in here with it made me feel good about the Flash. That's Williamson's strength.
Do you remember when Matt dropped that book like 3 times?
I did remember that.
Yeah, see? And that's part of Williamson. But I do want to say, it was always his story. It was never his characterization, really, of Barry. That was a problem. And I feel here, he gets to flex. There are moments in this book, as a Flash fan and Speed Metal, that just, man, so good. So, yeah, take us through, Pete.
In a lot of ways, this kind of... by the way, this is Joshua Williamson writing with Eddy Barrows on the art. In a lot of ways, this kind of feels like he's finally getting to address Rebirth, because that literally opens with, hey, here's what happened in Rebirth, and how Wally came back, and how everything sort of went through the metal and the death metal, and how we all got to hear.
It's a quick recap of all of Rebirth.
Yeah.
Not just the one shot, like of everything since in the briefest of forms.
And what's notable to me is that how it kind of has to acknowledge heroes in crisis without ever actually directly talking about it. It's almost like it wants to ignore that part.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I also do like how he wrote that into Flash, where that was Thawne coming through and doing the negative Flash stuff, which seems like a cop out, but I'll take it. It's very Flash focused. So the fact that he can touch on it here, and really the only sticking point is that Roy's still dead. From Crisis.
It's almost like
I forgot Roy was dead.
Yeah,
I had to even read Outlaws with him in it last time.
It's almost like we're not even going to bother properly retcon it. We're all just going to, all the writers are just going to collectively choose to never really bring it up or talk about it, and just kind of move on with our lives, and that's fine. Except for the fact that Roy's dead, and they're going to have to try and figure out a way to bring him back. Probably just when there's a whole line-wide reset of some kind, and they can just sort of do it in the middle of that, as opposed to
and just wave
a magic blue hand.
Yeah. Although I don't know if that magic blue hand's gonna have power after the end of this, because it'll be different. It'll be a tad bit different. I also do like how here we do get kind of a mixing of metal and the metaverse. Here.
You mean the Metalverse?
The Metalverse and the metaverse. That Doomsday Clock. Not that it didn't feel important, but it feels like Manhattan's meddling with things is playing part into this finally, whereas kind of we never really felt that. We had the button and all that other stuff, but it always just felt kind of amorphous. Here, there's finally, not that it needed it, but I did like that Williamson works that into Wally and the whole Metron chair and all of that stuff. So
yeah, I mean the plot of this issue is basically that the Barry, Wally, and Jay are running from the what was this thing called? I forget.
Well, it was the horde, right, of the Black Flash, and it was the Darkest Night.
The one big thing, right?
Yeah, before that, because before that there's the big shadow face thing.
It's the Darkest Night. It's that man who laughs.
Is it literally just the Darkest Night that's chasing them? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's chasing them. They're on the run. Speed Force is crumbling. Eventually, Wally. This is after the army of the horde of the dark Flashies from the various dark multiverse timelines all start coming out as well.
Wallace pops in at one point. Just shows up.
Yeah, Wallace pops in. Wally whips out the old formula. the old formula to stop time.
I bet Matt loved that.
I did.
I'm sure you did. So time freezes, gives him a chance to actually talk and recoup and talk about what's going on and figure some things out. And in a lot of ways, this felt like we finally got to have some kind of big Wally payoff, and it's kind of a little bit bittersweet because we had to go through Heroes in Crisis to even get here. But it's hard to deny that Wally kind of confronting Barry about actually going back, into his shadow after he came back from Final Crisis, and Barry kind of admitting that Wally should maybe lead for a change, and that all these little beats don't actually, cause a lot of nice feelings. For whatever reason, maybe to sell some action figures later, the other Flashies, not Wally, but the other three, all get like metal versions of their suits. I can't say I really care for Wallace's or Barry's, but I do like Jay's quite a bit.
It's the Black Flash versions, right? Not
yeah,
metal.
that's what they say. Yeah, so
I mean, whatever,
Jay's
same difference.
It's very reminiscent of Earth 2 Jay.
It is actually, yeah.
The Robinson and Tom Taylor, JSA universe, which was pretty cool because this is older Jay doing that. But yeah, the other ones they're just kind of whatever. I'll throw them up there with the metal costumes.
Yeah, Barrows is probably the worst. I would say I'm neutral on
On
Wallace.
the cover, I didn't realize that was supposed to be Barry, just because there's nothing signifying.
Yeah,
I think
that's
Wallace's works better than Barry's because it has the white as well. I think that kind of gives it some balance to it. I think a bit more than Barry's.
Yeah, I'm more neutral. I'm not necessarily a big fan of all the jaggies in his shoulders and stuff sticking out, but
I get it.
The color scheme's fine. But I think Jay actually looks kind of cool.
They were just superfluous, like Pete said, to sell maybe an action figure or something, or show off some designs.
Yeah, the only thing I'd really change about Jay's is the face.
Because they can sell a pack of, hey, it's the Speedster Metal pack of all their metal variants, whatever. Anyway, so their plan is to actually run into the Horde, through the Horde, to eventually get to Castle Bat, or whatever it's called, and get the Mobius chair, so they can get the Mobius chair to Wonder Woman, and she can use that to help rewrite everything. It'll give her the knowledge to win, blah, blah, blah. Usual MacGuffin style stuff. So there's a lot of 2-page spreads in this. There's a lot of pages of them running at the Horde, through the Horde, away from the Horde. A lot of speed lines, all that stuff. The highlight of the issue, though, I think absolutely has to be the moment where Wally decides to become the Flash again, and the suit starts to form on him before you turn the page, and you get this 2-page layout of him, not in his rebirth, suit with the hair coming out. He's in his proper the Flash suit from his tenure as the Flash.
Yeah. The Wade given Flash suit post Crisis on Infinite Earths with the diagonal belt. Oh man, good.
Looks
and then
good.
that just that whole layout, and it's kind of his history up to this point.
Barrows does a great job with the double pages and just with the flow of them. I think the ones early on, especially, and a credit to whoever does the lettering as well in this issue, where you read one right to left, essentially. It kind of leads your eye and swings you around, and the next one it goes left to right. But it always feels a really natural way of reading it. You're not like second guessing where the next.
Wait, were you talking? Are you sure the first one was right to left? Because I read it that way first, and then I feel like I read it the wrong way because it didn't make much sense, and I read it the opposite way, and it made more sense to me.
I read it left to right.
Yeah, left to right made more sense because I read it the other way first, and then I was going to complain about it because I thought the boxes actually made it feel like it should go the other way, but it didn't.
I mean, right to left works for me.
Which way? Which are you talking about? The first double page spread?
Yeah, with the hand coming out of it. So I went from someone else and then over to the right of even then. But I think both work. It actually works in both ways when I read it.
I mean, I read it left to right because that's how you read. So
I did, but I when I was reading, maybe this is instead of appraising the art, it's more of a critique. It felt to me with the hand, the finger, it was leading me across the hand to the boxes, then back around.
It did with me as well, which is why I read it right to left first. But then there was a couple of boxes that felt weird. I was like, I'm going to read this the other way and see if it makes more sense, and it did.
No, I looked through the time period. And he's got him as Kid Flash, and then around, and then we have the real bad miniseries that I didn't read, with him sitting on the chair. So like it was just look at the page and then,
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I think the flow actually implied it was meant to be read the wrong way. Because the following 2-page spread with the Batman who laughs at the top of it, I just read left to right first, and that made sense.
That one's really clear that it goes left to right, because you start in the top and you just go down, right? But on that first one, I think the art definitely implies that you want to go across the hand and then back in, at least to me. And Pete said you did the same thing.
I did the same thing, but I think the text makes sense the other way around. Because I started to just sort of it just started to read like nonsense to me, reading it right to left.
It still kind of worked for me enough that I didn't question it enough. I mean, maybe it works better going the other way, but it never felt odd for me.
It worked to a point. By the time I got to the middle of it, it started to feel like it was referencing a previous line before I got to it, and I was like, I think I'm reading this the wrong way around. So I reread it the other way, and it made more sense. But yeah, so Wally gets his Flash suit on. This 2-page spread has like his entire history play out. We see from Iris to when he was a kid with Barry, to meeting Linda, to the kids, all that stuff. And I'll be honest, I thought it was given the finger, and then I realized it was the devil horns. But
me too.
Yeah.
I do feel like maybe there was a version that was the finger.
Do you know what I think it is? Because I had a look at this because I did
Yeah.
the exact same thing. It's the shadowing on the foot on the first finger that draws your eye to that, whereas the back finger, the little one, doesn't actually.
And
have
that's
that
why I
shadow.
feel like maybe originally Barrows was like, "Hey, this will be cool. We'll give him the finger," and then someone was like, "Yeah, maybe we don't want to do that." But the devil horns still work, but definitely the middle finger because he goes, "Hey, Batman who tries too hard," which I was like, "Yeah, chirp him."
Of course, you loved that. Of course.
Yeah. And he's just too slow. That is a middle finger moment, right?
It felt like it, and Leslie, I think it's the shadowing on that finger that draws your eye to it, whereas the back finger blends in with the rest of the suit. That makes it look like it's just the one finger up at first until your eyes kind of refocus.
Yeah. So when he gets to the chair, he says, "I'm back," and you think, "Oh, he's back as the Flash. This is a triumphant moment." But then it's like, no, and then you turn the page, like, "No, he's back in the Speed Force." To the point where my catchphrase is even there. "Lost in the Speed Force" is one of the caption boxes. And he's drifting away, and it feels like he's going again. But just as when he thinks he's all is lost, and he's his text bubbles are fading away, as if he's just going into the void. The entire Flash family are there. It's like, nah, we're not letting you drift away this time. We all sort of snuck in here.
No, I love that because to me, the Flash has always been about that legacy and that family. Like we always use the term the Flash family. So the fact that they were all there for him, unlike last time where he was just by himself, Williamson really stuck that seeds of rebirth.
Not to pick apart your point, but I feel like we use Bat Family, Super Family, just as much as we do Flash Family.
With Flash Family, though, in terms of the arguably Fantastic Four being Marvel's first family, is kind of where it started, and then Flash Family for DC.
For me, I think of Flash Family first, just because Wally did take the helm so long. He was that character that took it on, and then it really was the family. Look at, so Wally's related through Iris, right? And then Iris and Barry are the grandparents to Bart. And then, you have Irie and Jay, and then, older Jay. Wait, did we ever figure out if it's Jay or Jai?
Oh, Young?
Yeah.
Not really, I don't think, but
okay.
I still say
Either
Jay,
way.
because he's clearly named after Jay.
Great, it's Jay and Iris. So, anyways, and then you have older Jay who takes them on like him and Joan raised Bart basically in Impulse. So like there is a little bit more of a family component than I would say to some of the other ones. Even though let's not pick that all of the super family literally are related. They have to be. Krypton. Anyways,
all the Robins are basically Batman's kids.
Right, but for me, Bat Family is a little bit more of the family you pick versus I feel the Super and Flash ones literally are all through related, and that's what that's what I get from it is they're all drawn to Wally because they're all kind of drawn together through him. The Flash is a family because Wally, and I love that.
Yeah. My only complaint of the art here is that the panel where he's hugging Iris, it looks like they're going for a kiss, and I was like, is that maybe Linda at first? And I was like, no, Linda's down the next panel. That's weird.
Yeah. You don't kiss your auntie on the lips.
I don't even think
they're... my family, you don't. If you do, that's cool.
I don't even think they're kissing. I think it's just that their foreheads are together.
It's just foreheads.
Yeah, it just looks bad.
Yeah. Mind you, it's a smaller panel. But they could have just been a proper hug, Yeah,
I think Wally and Iris have been watching too much Pornhub. They're starting to get into some weird shit here. I broke Matt.
I broke Matt. Down,
I love it. I broke Matt.
I'm not gonna do it. I had a joke, but I'm not gonna make it.
I want to hear the joke.
Nope. Let's just say it involves being the fastest man alive.
I think that was going to be an ejaculation joke, people, just for anyone who didn't keep up.
There you go.
But no, I had fun here. The kids sort of going, ooh, gross, as Linda and Wally are being nice to each other and blah, blah. Now, admittedly, Wally said he has to put on the blue suit again. It was like, all right, okay,
Oh,
whatever.
it was so disappointing. I was like, oh, it's back, and then it turns. Oh, really?
That said, though, I do like the tone here, which is basically like, okay, there's one last bit of like anti-crisis energy in me. This is the last hurrah of this time with the chair. You know, whatever happens next, this chair stuff's over. Like, you know, like, it's not going to be that long.
Right?
So, it's, you know, it's just fine. So,
the biggest surprise of this issue, though, for me was just I was expecting this to be okay. It's a metal tie-in, and you know, I kind of half of the course I know what to expect from those now. And don't know that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm quite happy to have metal tie-ins. I wasn't expecting this to be the issue that pays off Rebirth for Wally. Like that kind of came out of nowhere.
You know, but I'm kind of glad that it is coming from Williamson, who's been on the Flash since the start.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Instead
of having Snyder, who really didn't like, when you think about Snyder and Rebirth, he really didn't have much to do with Rebirth.
nah, if anything,
not until like halfway through where he started doing the Justice League. So.
Yeah, because if anything, Snyder was in this weird place where he was given All-Star Batman. It was a lot like when Morrison got incorporated. Not the exact same, but it was kind of similar in the sense that you're still going to continue with Batman in a way, just over here, at its own little pocket that's separate from everything going on in the main line.
He did that, and then Last Night on Earth.
Yeah.
Kind of following those chains.
And he was doing Justice League for, halfway in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
once he took Justice League, he was like a proper part of the universe again, but...
Yeah, but he really wasn't addressing stuff from Rebirth. He was, he was putting things forward, which is cool.
It's funny, I wonder when this issue kind of came to fruition in terms of concept, because I do wonder if this is a post-Didio decision, because it kind of feels... Because I think we were getting the impression that Didio wasn't necessarily that interested in paying off some of the stuff from Rebirth. No. He didn't really care.
I think he actually doesn't like that generation that we love, the Wallies and the Nightwings.
Yeah, well, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah, but I feel like that's why they both got lost. The further Rebirth went, the more they kind of got lost.
Yeah.
Whereas
I
think
like Didio tried to pay off a lot of the Rebirth stuff as early as possible, like Superman, for example. So all right, let's clean this up, get it sorted, and then just move on. Just forget about it.
I'm getting the feeling here that Metal right now, and whatever we get into next with these Generation 1 shots and whatever's coming after that, it kind of feels like they're really actually trying to tie up a lot of loose ends that have been here since the start of Rebirth.
Yep.
And, whatever sort of fresh slate we're getting, whether that's some new launches, whether that's some event that's going to like spark everything into place or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to reset the table a little bit.
I always feel that by them not addressing Wally and them just being like, here, he's back, enjoy, I feel that did more damage than just being like, oh, hey, he's over here doing this stuff. But it always seemed to me like there was a mandate to get him out of there. And I don't know if that's true. That's just how I was reading. Because, look how much we enjoyed the Flash War stuff.
I think to a point it felt like token inclusion. Like, oh, fine, we'll bring Wally back.
Right.
But we don't want him in the main books, so that's why he was always off in like Titans and wherever else he was shafted off to for the side for a while.
And I just feel like Williamson had this from the beginning. He had this, handle on the mythos, because look at how he brought back Bart, and then he really didn't get to use him. Like it had to be Bendis that got to use him in Young Justice, and then when we see him show up in the Flash, like he's having fun writing that character. And I just always wonder, like, how much of that was, no, you just need to focus on Barry or whatever, from editorial and whatnot. I don't know. I'd love to, if I could ask him and he could be honest, because I don't think he'd ever say anything, But I also think it's interesting to note that he was pretty much in there on the Button stuff, right? That the Flash, because of a Flashpoint and Batman, they were always kind of interlinked, so
but that's another one that, like I mentioned with the Superman stuff, that was quite early, and that was what, issues like 17, 18?
Yeah, it might have been 20, but
yeah, it was like 21, 22.
Okay,
yeah.
So,
but either way.
We're talking about 2 months at this point there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Flash has been a big part of what Rebirth is, and especially Wally, who just kind of disappeared through that, we'd throughout New 52, you had the people like me being like, where's Wally? And then we get Wallace, and it's not the same, but they tried, and now we get a new character out of it, and that's fine. So here, finally, I'm glad that Williamson, it's taken how many years to finally get Wally back into a spot where he feels important. He is the Flash that launched the modern.
Yeah, and arguably this is okay. We're setting him up to be in a point where he's going to be the most important he's been since before Barry came back, right?
Right.
In theory. Also, by the way, in the UK, Where's Wally was called Where's Wally, so Matt saying Where's Wally in the middle of that made me chuckle.
There was on those things, just things that I don't think were intentional references, but made me laugh. In the middle of this issue, when Jay's like, "I'm going to stay and fight the demon zombie Black Flashes," and one of them goes, "We'll come back for you, Jay," and all I could hear was from Always Sunny with the Thunder Gun episode. Just "We'll come back for you," and I don't think it was an intentional thing, but it's all I could hear it.
Yeah, that whole race where first Jay breaks down because he's older, then Wallace can't keep up, so he goes back to help Jay, and eventually Barry's like, "I'm going to give you whatever power I've got left, so you can go faster than you've ever traveled before, Wally."
Faster than you've ever fastest.
Yes, faster than you've ever fastest. Which gives him the strength to get to the chair and then ultimately exit the Speed Force. And so the last page is basically just Wally in his blue suit with Jay and Barry behind, taking the chair to Wonder Woman and everyone else. So this is it feels relatively essential. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure issue 4 of Death Metal will just say, "Oh, the Flash just went and got the chair," and they brought it.
Yeah,
right?
I think this one feels less essential than the Trinity Crisis one.
I would agree with that. I still think it feels fairly essential, and bizarrely, I actually think it's a 3-pronged essential issue in the sense that it's 30% essential to Death Metal, 30% essential to be the end of the Flash run by Williamson, and 30% essential in paying off Rebirth stuff that's been lingering since the start of the whole thing. So,
I agree with that. Very fair assessment. I think it's probably out of those though, like the Metal one. It feels like that's the easiest one where you could skip it. I think.
Yes. But
it's the least essential to Metal.
But you add all those up though. You add all those up and it feels really important.
It does, and I don't think it was marketed that way. Like I didn't think this was going to be like a really important issue. So obviously we knew it was coming right after the last issue.
No, but my shop did order a bunch of them.
So you think maybe retailers knew?
Yeah, having the foresight that, hey, this might be a hot book. If it's not, cool. But if it is, I don't want to be shorted on them.
I wonder if DC kind of gave retailers a heads up of what it was in terms of, its contextual importance, because I know they do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as long as they don't screw over Wally and the rest of the story.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Williamson's going to do next, because I feel like he's having him do this to close off the whole Flash thing. Or the story that started with Rebirth. I hope he has a pretty big role going forward.
Yeah,
it seems like it because he's doing a lot of these Metal stuff.
He's on the Justice League Metal tie-in, right? And maybe some of the other ones later. But I don't think he has an ongoing book now, right?
Well, Batman Superman.
But
sure, yeah, but no, not one to replace Flash. Is what I mean.
I'm sure he will come February or so.
Yeah, but because you also look at what Tom Taylor's saying is that they because we'll talk about Suicide Squad. And people are like, "Oh man, I hope you got something planned to follow it up." He goes, "I got many things." So,
and we know, like Bendis again. We talked about this last week. Has something planned at least. So it does feel like a lot of these creators that are finishing on books do have more coming.
Yeah,
and I hope that's true because I do like Williamson. I went and I delved into Nailbiter because I got the first issue of the second series, and it picked right back up, and it was damn good. Now I'm gonna have to wait for it to go and trade like I did because I can't do the weekly or the monthly read of the book like that. So I feel like whatever was going on, it reinvigorated him, and I kind of want more stuff like this. And that first issue of Nailbiter, that got me hooked on him, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I mean I can't really emphasize that enough. Just how fist pumping it was, realizing, because you can kind of see it in the page building up to the suit. You're like, wait, that red suit that's coming in is not the Rebirth one. I'm pretty sure that's going to be his full suit. So
I wouldn't mind a compromise in the sense of, because about halfway through when he's in the red suit, the cowl gets a bit ripped.
Yeah.
And his hair starts coming out. I wouldn't mind having the headband part of the rebirth suit, but everything else just being identical to this.
Well, what I was going to say though is I think it's really important to sort of cap this off as your payoff to Rebirth is that having him in that suit, acknowledging not only that Wally West exists and that he's back, but acknowledging his time as the Flash, even though obviously they mentioned it here or there, obviously they, of course they have, but actually kind of paying homage to it and acknowledging that he kind of became a better Flash in that time than Barry ever had been before.
And that goes into Barry being that good of a role model, right? There's that saying that when you have kids, you want them to do better than you. And even though it's not his biological kid, you know, he kind of raised Wally. So the fact that he became a better Flash means that Barry was successful. And so I like that.
Giving him that visual, though, in this issue, it kind of cements the intention of what it's supposed to be. Now, admittedly, I mean, sometimes I get a little bit tired of comics and how we all seem to be fighting for things to be fixed because they keep screwing things up every so often. And Wally's been kind of the, Wally and Dick. Because, it's so funny how we hit that point like in 2018, I assume it was, where Rick Grayson and the Heroes in Crisis stuff with Wally
at the same time
was kind of hitting around the same time, and it was like, holy shit, what's happening to our heart and soul?
That was a rough time period.
It was a dark time.
You look at those characters from that, from that era, and none of them really had anything to do. They were almost the Slosh generation, outside of Cyborg, and the only reason he got so much prominence was John's deciding to give him prominence in New 52.
Yeah, because it's not like Raven or Beast Boy or Starfire had anything super notable.
Starfire,
and I get why they're lost in the sense of, okay, we have our established, top tier. We've got the new kids that we want to showcase. The younger, you want your teens, your Young Justice, whatever team it's going to be at the time, your young one. These characters now, they're too old to be that young team. But they're not the top tier, no matter how we think of them. They're not perceived as the top tier. Wally might be the only exception to this in terms of, okay, he spent a long time as the Flash.
Well,
I would say give them a, let them be the Justice League while all the big characters have their solo books. The only problem is that these, not just DC, comic books in general, are notorious for kind of after the initial arc of a new team, kind of forgetting they exist, and it just ends up feeling like a C-tier book as opposed to being treated like it's important. Like it should be. Like why can't you have a team book? Like, I mean, in theory, even just a relaunch of Titans, why couldn't Titans feel like a big book?
Do them as an outsiders team.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I started reading comics. That Titans team was the outsiders, and their whole thing was, well, we can do things that Justice League can't because they're not as big, right?
It's kind of what they did in because they took that inspiration for that into Young Justice, the show, in the sense of, okay, obviously we started off with these characters being the young ones, but by the third season, those had grown up, and we'd got to the newer generation, as it were. And they kind of became, well, some of us might go join the league, but others we're going to do kind of the outsiders essentially and be the off the books team.
Right. And so, but no, I definitely hope that whatever goes forward out of this, it's in a spot that, because I always just feel like them denying that these characters, and even Spoiler was in on that, like they just were not there or weren't addressed.
Well,
so
it's an extension of what we're saying. Is you're talking about how the big characters are never allowed to go away. And then you have these characters that have grown up and there's a new generation. That's actually incorrect. We're at the point now where there's another generation underneath them. So now there's two lost generations in between. Yeah. And that was kind of Young Justice who were missing.
I think that's kind of what was a little bit frustrating in some ways, that we're not going to see 5G come to fruition. Because I think that would have been really interesting to see, okay, no, they're being forced to retire that top gen, essentially, and kind of move on.
It's very a Marvel approach. Marvel would do that there was a while where you had Jane Thor and Sam Wilson as Cap, and I don't know who was Tony Stark, but I don't think it was traditional Tony Stark.
It might have been the alien clone,
whatever it was, so that they'd tried to do that too. And
Cho as Hulk as well, right?
Yeah, Cho as Hulk, and it was just all new, all different Marvel, right? And it was still fine from what I was reading.
Yeah, for a little while, but then they had to revert everything back to status quo.
Yeah, then you end up coming back, and now, and I'm getting caught up on Jason Aaron's Thor. That's such what I'm used to saying. Jason Aaron's Avengers, and it's all who you would think. It's almost the movie lineup, but swap She-Hulk for Hulk. You know,
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Throw in Ghost Rider.
Right, and there's that's just comics, but to act like those other characters just don't exist, it's kind of my problem right now with what's going on with X-Men is I don't know how Laura's supposed to fit in, or Gabby, or some of these other younger X characters that I really dig, because of them this is the X-Men now. And I feel like DC had done that with these younger heroes, and it always cracked me up that we had Barry back, and that's cool, but you have Central City, but they're twin cities. What's going on in Keystone? You can't have Wally just being over there maintaining things, Like,
I think ultimately the solution was always we should have just had 2 Flash books, one each.
Yeah, but even if let's say the comic sales being what they are, you could just have Wally guest star on stuff. Like, sure, it wouldn't be
sure, but I mean,
happy,
we had Flash double shipping for 4 years now. Sure. We could have quite easily split that into 2 monthly books, no problem, and the sales would probably not have had. I'm
just doing devil's advocate here, But even just him guesting and being like, oh, he's doing his stuff over here, or doing an arc of what's going on in Keystone or whatever. It's all there, and same with Dick over in Nightwing. I don't know why we had to, because it always seemed to me like King didn't. It wasn't a huge plot point that Rick or Dick got shot to become Rick. It's not like he had some grand plan. It was to move the story forward for KG Beast and Batman.
The story in Batman could have just been that he got shot and he was in a coma for a bit. He didn't need to lose his memory. Like, it was irrelevant to the actual Batman book.
He can't have a monthly book if he's in a coma.
Just have it all set before, like they always do for these things. It's not that hard. I mean, it's really easy just to accept that Dick Grayson's, like, the story is simply, in Batman 99, Batman says, welcome back, and hands him his outfit. That's it. That's his entire journey back. And you can just ignore every issue of Nightwing from the day that he got shot to that moment.
I do.
Yeah, right? So, but no, just my point is it seemed like they did more harm than good just doing that, or it's even the Justice League Odyssey team where at least they were doing stuff, and I don't like it, but
I saw a
Cyborg,
recap of the last few issues of what happened, and I mean, mild spoilers to that book, I guess, but they all died? What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, they were
I
all
got
dead.
to the point,
like, not even just for like, it's a one-issue cliffhanger. They were dead for issues and issues by the sounds of it.
because they had to be reborn because of the stuff that I almost called him Thanos, because he's essentially Thanos in that book. Darkseid's doing. It's funny that Darkseid predates Thanos, but then Thanos rips off Darkseid, and then Thanos gets big because of the MCU, and then this version of hooded Darkseid kind of becomes Thanos.
What you have just described is comics in a nutshell.
Yeah, right? So, but anyways, they died. Jess died at one point. She exploded and then gets held back together by Green Lantern-ness.
Yeah, but all the others actually died, and Jess was just like the
well, they all got lost to the Omega Effect the last time I had read.
Yeah.
Someone's here, apparently, because the dogs are going nuts.
Yeah. Well, this is went wildly off topic anyway.
It did, but I think though, as DC fans that we are, at least I won't speak for you guys, this really hit me in the heart and did make me feel happy. Not as much as we'll get to the Flash, not as much as that did, but seeing Wally back in that costume, seeing him interact with the family, and just having my Wally West seemingly back, even if it's just for this. Because I do feel like the rug's going to be pulled out and he's not surviving metal. Like, a Flash has to die. How many times are we hearing this?
I mean, it's mentioned in this issue. Where the Batman Who Laughs says it, or the Darkest Night says it, whoever. I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up about whatever's going to happen with Wally and anyone else from that generation in a few months' time. But at the very least, maybe they won't completely screw it up, which would be nice. Yeah, and the art is mostly good in the issue. There's a couple of moments we mentioned that aren't perfect, but ultimately it is generally quite nice looking, and the 2-page layouts do look very pretty.
Yeah. Barrows has always been a good fit for Flash. I think he has a strong dynamism. No, I can't speak.
Dynamism.
Thank you.
Gotcha. I kind of slurred it a little bit, but that's one of those words.
Yeah.
So,
but
but
he has a lot of that.
Yeah, if you like Barrows and you like what I've talked about Venditti, his Freedom Fighters, it's Venditti and Barrows doing, pulpy, actiony stuff. So that sounds like your jam. Have at it.
Yep. I plan on getting to it.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm giving this a solid 8.
Connor?
I'm also giving it an 8. It was going to be an 8.5, but since we had that discussion on that double page spread, I'm knocking it down half a point.
Oh, jeez.
My mate's going. I probably will give it the 8.5. It hit me enough in the feels where it needed to hit me. That it was delightful to see that stuff. So there you go. That is Speed Metal issue 1, which I'm going to type in because I didn't actually put in the issue 1 in my notes.
I also love that I don't know if this is Williamson, but him taking the 2 genres of metal and doing stories based off of that is pretty cool. Is that speed metal and doom metal? So I do enjoy that.
All right. The Flash 762, Joshua Williamson writing with Howard Porter on the art. So this is the end of the run in terms of the book itself, but it kind of feels like Speed Metal is the real final issue. If anything, I would say Speed Metal issue 1 should probably be in the trade, even though it's kind of a weird
you could make it as a capper.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit separate, but at the same time, it feels like it should fit.
I was I was reading the West Coast Avengers, and they went and threw in was it the Young Avengers annual? That's the Kate story about how she gets Hawkeye's bow, and it's not really West Coast Avengers. This fits more in. Speed Metal will fit in way more with this trade, a Finish Line, than that did. So
Sure.
Just do it.
Yeah. It starts with the lightning striking on Barry. Once again, it's not quite at the level of Batman's parents dying, or even Flash's mum dying. Now that I think about it, but it's something we see again and again. Big 2-page spread. Barry chasing Thawne and the Speed Force and all the rest of it. Ultimately, this story is about Barry kind of sort of realizing that he's in this endless loop with Thawne, so he decides to do something different. So he takes off his mask and he says that he forgives him, and he essentially becomes Thawne's lightning rod, which essentially bounds him back to the laws of physics, because right now he's kind of this paradox that's living on the outside of it.
Yeah, because he keeps dying, but because of his knowledge of the Speed Force and because of almost the metaverse qualities, he's able to overcome death and come back in different forms of himself, which I think is a cool... Because even with how this ends, there could be a Thawne out there somewhere, It's almost kind of like the dark multiverse when you think about it.
Well, there is a Thawne at the end.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not jumping forward.
Yeah, we can. So Thawne obviously hates this, and then he disintegrates into nothingness because the timeline's kind of like rewriting itself. And we see that in the future, in the 25th century, Eobard Thawne is now the tour guide at the Flash Museum, and basically they find out that the Reverse Flash is in there. He does exist, but now his identity is a secret. It's unknown. And it's this idea that, like, the idea of there was all these stories of battles with some Reverse Flash, but because the timeline has changed, because this Eobard Thawne in the future never becomes Reverse Flash, he's this kind of mystery. He's almost like a myth in that, okay, he's been seen fighting the Flash, and all these big things did happen in the past, but we never actually found out who it was. So I kind of like that idea. I like the idea of turning him into kind of a myth. Not for us, obviously, but for the people of the future.
In the 25th century, yeah. It's kind of that theory of Back to the Future that people... who's the writer of that? I always forget.
Bob Gale?
Thank you, Bob Gale. People are always like, well, how didn't Marty's parents recognize Marty? And someone goes, hey, do you remember your life, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, to the detail of 1 week? It's like, well, no. So this really reminded me of that, of sure, it might be Thawne and something might happen later, but at this point, it's not like it's Flash history. He is that unknown, something kind of happened, but they're not certain. So I kind of do like that it does play with the memory and legacy of the character.
Yeah, there's a sort of montage page where it shows that kind of the timeline's kind of fixed itself. You know, all the villains are back in their own time periods.
Which I love that that's Williamson's reset. Like, hey, remember all the stuff that I did? Okay, it's back to 1. You know.
Yeah, and that murder that Barry was kind of looking into that happened the night of the storm, or the night of Rebirth. Sorry, the night of Wally coming back.
Yep.
It turns out the woman was actually the ancestor of Eobard Thawne, because her husband's name is Thawne, and it's kind of this.
She doesn't go by that name, you know, so he wasn't able to put it together until right now.
Yeah. He finds out that she kept her maiden name, basically.
Right.
And their child is probably the great grandfather of Eobard.
I was like, please don't be Eddy. Like,
it begs an interesting question. Did Thawne like go back in time and kill his own ancestor?
And maybe that's what created the paradox. I don't know. Is that what he's saying, or is this a different Thawne? Right? Because Thawne's could be a big family, right? So those could be a great uncle. I don't know. Okay,
you know, in that case, though, why would he kill her?
Right, but why, if he kills her, judging by time travel, he doesn't exist. Except that he does exist, so he doesn't kill her.
Well, he says repeatedly that he's a paradox.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how would this ends the paradox? Like, you know what I mean? I don't.
No, it starts
the timey-wimey.
No, it starts the paradox.
But wouldn't this close the loop of the paradox because Thawne's not going to kill her?
No, I'm saying him killing her is the start of the paradox that was in place.
Right. And I'm saying now, though, that ends the paradox, and that's why he's unknown. Right? That's what Williams is saying.
Well, I mean, the end of the paradox was Barry doing the thing, not this. This is just like the effect that's now here because the paradox didn't happen.
Right. Timey-wimey.
I don't
think about time travel too much.
I don't actually think it's that confusing, but yeah, like this is now here because the paradox isn't happening. We go to a barbecue. The Flash family are all hanging out, but Iris does note that Wally's not there. Also, is Iris wearing a Jason Voorhees shirt? Is that what's happening?
She is.
Yeah. And
I gotta say, this is Williamson really going like, "Hey, I know you love Lois Lane, but why don't you give Iris some love too sometimes?" Because we do know it is established that through Williamson that she does love horror movies, you know. So the idea of her wearing a Jason shirt, which is kind of similar to my Violent Gentleman Jason shirt.
Yeah, well, I questioned it. I thought maybe it's just maybe a hockey top, but it's a very Jason-esque. It's
Jason's markings of his mask. As someone that's contemplating getting a Jason mask tattoo, that is his mask, like without a doubt. But we also know that, well, Linda was the hockey fan on my reread of John's Flash. You know, she was the one that was in the Keystone Combines. So I don't know. Either way, hockey in the Central City, you know, whatever, goes together. Either way, if she's a Jason fan, a hockey fan, I approve.
Oh yeah, of course you do. The tease, I presume this is just for the next writer that's doing the fill-in story. There's a little tease for another villain popping up.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's Barry running off. He kind of talks to his ghost mother. I mean, obviously not really, but
yeah, he's talking as you do with someone that you know passed. You do have conversations. At least I do. But yeah, it was this issue did give me the warm and fuzzies. I said that on Twitter just because it rounds up. It's kind of like Speed Metal the same way. It's everything that I love about the Flash, and it is very forgiving, right? And that's one of his things.
Yeah, it just ends with him running off to like deal with a thing, like a Flash thing. And Iris is saying, be back soon, kind of thing. And the final page is just him, big full page spread of him running through a gallery of all of his front covers, basically. Also,
that villain, that's Dr. Alchemy. So it's not a new villain, but it's a established villain. So
yeah, honestly, it felt kind of weirdly tacked on, to be honest. That panel, it was like, why is this here? Especially because when I looked at it again there a second ago, I was like, yeah, this is kind of weirdly just here because nothing else even comes up from it. Which I assume it's just hey, this is what the next writer's doing, so he's being nice and putting in a little panel for it. Which it's fine, whatever. I didn't like this as much as Speed Metal. I thought it was good.
Okay.
I like because you implied when we were talking about Speed Metal that you like this more. And
I don't want to say more. I think on an emotional level, there's parts of Speed Metal that hit, but I do feel like he did stick the landing here with the finish line and stuff that he did with Thawne. So I don't know. Again, it made me feel warm and fuzzy versus Speed Metal, which gave me a lot of fist pumps and made me feel good. But this was, I don't know, I guess that's just the distillation of Barry that I've learned just to accept Barry as the Flash and whatnot. And I feel like this kind of did what Williamson wanted to do. So
no, I mean, I liked it. It did feel like a capper to his run. It felt like a kind of a final, like a finality to even just the idea of the Flash as a whole, because it sort of ends the rivalry with Thawne. Of course, the cynical side of me is that, as soon as the next writer wants to bring Eobard Thawne back, they'll just mess all this up immediately because they'll make up some reason why he's back again. So it has that kind of sad, jaded quality to it for me, where I'm like, it's just going to be undone the second one writer wants to.
I mean, sure, but at the same time, there are Easter eggs there. We still never got who was in that monitor suit. That was behind Zoom, Hunter Zolomon, and all of that. That was kind of teased, unless that was meant to be Paradox, but those suits are a little bit different. And because then Godspeed took that over. Which also, is Godspeed still running around then?
No, he died.
Because we see his grave. Yeah, but his grave gets ran over, and it doesn't say August anymore, does it?
I'll go back to that page.
Yeah.
It fades away.
Yeah.
So,
which means August might still be out there as a police,
Yeah, I was going to say, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's still Godspeed, though. He might not have powers anymore. Although, that said, there is a flash of lightning, but I assumed that was Barry, because he's running through a lot of these pages, or these panels.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I don't know, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, with the whole Godspeed and it does
notably look less red, though, that flash of light. Even though all these panels have Barry running through them, and you get the red and the yellow, the lightning on that panel does look a bit more white and gold. So
of Godspeed
could be him. Yeah, possibly.
But yeah, so I just so when it comes out, there's other stuff out there. Like I wouldn't mind seeing Zoom come back through, especially if Wally sticks around, right? Like we get through Death Metal and this new status quo, and I would like to see more of Zoom and kind of that story, what's going on there. But yeah, so
it does notably say that the next issue, the Trickster returns. So I don't even know what the alchemy thing was hinting at. Yeah. So I guess we'll find out in the long run. But no, I think it's good. I think it's a good issue. I think Speed Metal hit more for me, though. Maybe because it feels like it's stuff that I've been waiting on for longer. And the Flash run as a whole is kind of this, because there's a little thank you note at the end from Joshua Williamson, and that's cool. Yeah. It's hard not to look at it and go, yeah, I'd have cut out like 40 issues of it. And for the most part, you probably could. Like, you could probably get to just after Flash War, and then just take like the next 3 or 4 trades and just pull them out. And just say, read this last one after that, and that'll do you.
Was there anything relevant to the year 1, the forces in the last section?
Just those characters showing up, so like Forza and was it still?
But
Force guy.
When you say they show up, though, they're literally in a group shot, and then you see them them in the barbecue at the end when everyone's there. So it's not like
and they talk about the different forces. So theoretically, you don't. And again, that was him resetting. Him basically hitting this reset switch.
It sounds like it would take very little effort to re-edit a cut of this without them.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not even theoretical. Honestly, like how many times you read a comic book and there's a giant group shot, and you just accept there's a handful of them you don't know, because you don't know every comic book character, because it's possible, because there's so bloody many of them.
I'm just saying, like, this, if someone wanted to use the Speed Force stuff, not the Speed Force, the forces of life, you could, and you wouldn't need to go back and read those. You could just jump off with Forza, Steadfast in a teaming up with Barry or whatever, because the whole psychic force isn't there, the mind force, whatever that was called. I don't see that character, so but no, theoretically you wouldn't need it, because it's not like the Turtle's a big deal or King Cold, and you can just get rid of that. The whole Renegades Captain Cold thing or Commander Cold. So, but no, it's good. I look forward to see what Williamson's working on next. But yeah,
I think I'm a little bit cynical with it. I liked it, but kind of like the last issue where I said, I felt the formula of, oh, hey, here's a big full page spread of like people returning, because we'd done that the previous issue, and it worked really well the previous issue. It was a bit diminished last issue, and in this issue, I kind of feel that okay, it's the typical wiping the slate clean for the next writer, and there's just enough of like, it feels weird, but it feels like the generic end of a run. Does that make sense? Like, not that we do it too often, but it's kind of the generic end of a run.
But you're I think you're really onto something with the Speed Metal. Felt more of like his ending tag because it's more about Rebirth, and he started there and ended there. Whereas this feels like just the end of the Flash run. Like he had way more to say in Speed Metal. So I get the cynical take. I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I guess it feels a bit more like, oh, this is pretty serviceable as an ending, and it's it's got some good moments, and I like seeing everyone together. But I'm not like super enthused by it either. I guess is what I'm saying. I
mean, it made me feel nice, and in 2020, that's the bare minimum. If a book can do that, I'll take it.
All right, what are you giving Flash 762?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5, just slightly over. Plus Howard Porter art. We didn't talk about Howard Porter, the quintessential, Flash artist.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah,
looks really, really good too. So,
yeah, I'll probably go with more like a 7 on this. I think it's good, but not like yell from the rooftops or anything like that. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to when we get to start the next proper run, because we have a couple of fill-in arcs coming up, and then it's tying into Endless Winter. So who knows what it's doing from January onwards? We'll see. Because it's going to be in like a weird holding pattern until. Yeah. We're in the new status quo whenever that properly hits, and then we'll have a new proper writer.
As someone that's going to collect all of Endless Winter, this is going to mess up my Flash, because I started getting this when I started rereading it was digital, and this is going to mess it all up. So that's fun. I mean, I'll just take it together with Endless Winter, I guess, but I'll know.
Oh well. First world problems, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but that's why you were talking about comics on a show.
True, yes.
So
that is like first world privilege at its finest.
Yeah. All right. Suicide Squad, issue 9, Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art. So, yeah, obviously this was the one we were kind of building up to, because we knew they'd been kind of advertising this as the death of Deadshot, and been doing this for a while. Basically, the story of the issue is the team getting to the island and then getting to the building and getting to Ted Cord, and kind of this big showdown that happens that plays out a little bit differently than we'd expect. Although you're as a reader, you're sitting there kind of doubting that you're like, something feels off about this, something doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah, straight away it's not all as it seems.
I'm waiting constantly for the trapdoor for Taylor, because I know how he likes to mess with us.
Absolutely.
And then I got thinking, because when me and Pete watch wrestling, sometimes the swerve is there is no swerve, and they're just gonna play it straight. So I'm like, wait, is Tom Taylor messing with us here now? I'm waiting for this to happen, and it makes it through the whole issue, and the son of a bitch does it.
Yeah, you got Chaos getting thylacine, getting intel. Yeah, they kidnap like a Congress dude or whoever he is, and then Finn questions him underwater, which is just a delightful sequence.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah,
I love that panel of him. I left him with some friends, and it's like he's being held in by an octopus, and there's like sharks coming in and stuff. It's great.
He's got an oxygen tank though. He's not drowning. Just for the record.
No, but he's kind of left to the devices of the animals, so
Yeah, I'm not sure if the implication here was we're just going to let the sharks eat him, or if it was more of he'd use some mental telepathy on the sharks to be like, just scare him, and then we're going to come back for him later. I'm not sure which way it actually was supposed to be read.
Yeah, maybe it's something we'll get the morality of these characters more as we get to know them, and we'll have a better idea of that.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah. Harley and Deadshot have kind of a touching almost goodbye, where it's like, hey, we spent a lot of time in Suicide Squad together. Harley tries to be nice, and they get interrupted because Live Shot is using a gun and shooting some birds. And Deadshot makes it very clear that he doesn't actually want her messing with guns, and he wants her to be better than him, and that he doesn't feel very good about the life that he's had. And she makes him pinky promise not to kill anyone, which is a very sweet scene, and it's very
Which might be foreshadowing for later.
very foreshadowing. To the point where when he's confronted about the fact that he promised not to kill anyone, and they're essentially going on an assassination mission for Ted Kord, he says, well, someone else can pull the trigger, and as for anyone else, I can still shoot people, I just can't kill them. Which is very Terminator 2, it's he'll live kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that you'll need a new name. What was it that they suggested?
Meme Shot.
Meme Shot, yeah.
So now we get a page of them infiltrating, so it's just a little montage page of each one of them using their powers one by one, in these little boxes. Ted Kord.
Great flow to it, though.
Ted Kord seems to be freaking out, although given the twist that comes with the Superman section, I'm going to hasten to assume that Ted Kord that we've been seeing throughout this run is not actually being Ted Kord.
Which kind of makes me a little angry. But at the same time, as a Ted Kord fan, I'm also okay with it because I don't want guys I like to be dirtbags. But it kind of lessens that reveal in that issue where you right? Like,
I mean, we always expected there to be a way around it. There was always going to be something that revealed that Ted Kord wasn't actually an evil prick now.
Knowing that Tom Taylor used to work in a carnival as a sword thrower and juggler and kind of as a sideshow guy, he is carny as hell, and I don't believe anything he says anymore.
Yeah, I love how different some of the backgrounds people who come to comics are. So you have your Snyders who, you professors, teachers, whatnot.
Academics. Yeah.
You've got Soul, who's straight up a lawyer, still is. And then you have Tom Taylor.
Is Soul a lawyer, or is he a shepherd of Star Wars? Because I feel like
I feel like those things are not mutually exclusive.
I don't know, man. I don't know where he has.
I can't believe you did that little list that mentioned the fact that Tom King was in the CIA. I mean,
and then but on the other end as well, you have Gail Simone, who was a hairdresser.
Right.
So it's literally a complete such a spectrum of previous careers. But
with Gail now, we know she's a liar, so we can't trust anything she says.
The point is that anyone can write. If someone can write, they can write. It doesn't really matter what else they've done before.
Or you got to be friends with the guy that was the EIC, and you're just given a character for years at a time. Doesn't mean you can write. Yeah. Anyways, Tom Taylor's carny as hell, and I don't trust a word he says anymore because there was much to do with his, and this is us, or at least me, reading way too much from his Twitter about, hey, sometimes the guys you think are good aren't good, right? And human beings are more complex than that. So I don't know, but that's a good spot to have, is if you don't know whether to believe in them or not.
Well, let me explain what this scene is, because they get up to the top of the tower, and Ted Kord's in, a rope, and he's gagged, he's tied up. Superman's just standing there, and they're like, wait, what? What's happening? And Rosita's not happy because she wants, his blood. They start to ask about where the girl from the prison was. We learned about in the flashbacks, and all this stuff. And everyone leaves. Everyone's like, oh, well, I guess it's done now because Superman's dealing with it and we can, we move on. But Deadshot sticks around. He's like, hey, can I ask for something? And he tells him about the fact that he's been pardoned and all that. He's like, hey, can I ask for something for my daughter? Maybe set her on the right path. And Superman's playing along. And you're kind of waiting for it. And he has a hat. And I thought it was going to be that he knows what Superman's signature looks like, because he gets him to sign a magazine. And... It turns out it's like, I never told you my daughter's name, and he said Zoe on it. But the death here is that whoever this is, which we're going to get to in a second, shoots him through the magazine. So we see the hole in the magazine, and then the magazine goes down, and we see where it hit, which is right sort of in the upper chest kind of area. And then it reveals that the hologram imaging that's creating the image of Superman dissipates, and we see who this actually is. The villain of this book is Black Mask, and potentially always has been Black Mask, is I think the obvious implication.
Which I think is entertaining as shit, considering I read that the villain, Year of the Villains tie-in
Mm-hmm.
of Black Mask because it was Tom Taylor.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Black Mask in that issue was using a disguise at multiple points.
Yep.
I do actually like this extension for Black Mask. These holographic disguises are
Another
ultimately
mask.
just masks, right?
Yeah, but I just, Kevin, going all the way back to that annual, which felt very standalone and as if it didn't really matter that much. It's kind of weird that he's playing like 4D chess with how he's setting this up and other like one shots that he's done ages ago.
And that's, and so this whole issue, I'm like, because he said no, we're killing Deadshot, he's dead, and I get through this issue, and you're like, okay, well maybe Deadshot dies, but Floyd is able to go on. And then you get to the end, and it's a little bit too happy.
It's a bullet in the head, and he falls out a window from a very high floor.
Without a doubt, he does kill him, but it's on the very last page.
It's not in the head. What are you talking about?
No, he takes the bullet. Yeah.
Oh, the second shot is.
Look at him. He's falling out the window on the final page. There's blood coming out of his forehead.
Oh, I was disputing the first shot. The first shot's clearly in his chest.
Oh no, the first one is. But and sure, I could buy. Okay, maybe he'll survive that. It's comics. But the second one, no, it's a shot in the head and then he's out the window. That's pretty damning as far as it seems right now.
Yeah. So I like the idea that this Ted Cord, who's tied up, is Ted Cord, but the idea being that he's always tied up. They literally just have him in a cupboard tied up while Black Mask is pretending to be Ted Cord. It's kind of funny to me. So
what do you think the point is that Deadshot kind of figured it out? Because obviously it's before the signature. He's kind of leading Superman into that.
Oh yeah, he's obviously trying to like, solve it and like get him to show his hand.
Yeah, there's a point where he says thanks, and then there's the ... Superman, and so he's obviously got the inkling by that point.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you think it's before he stays behind and wants to hey, you all go off. I just want to has he already thought about it? Is I just want to check something, or is it after that and he regrets letting everyone else having gone?
So no, I think he knew something was up by the time, just because Superman just being there. Right? And all their other stuff. Because when he hands it over, he goes, hey, thanks. He goes, yeah, that's what I thought. So it's got to be that his plan. As soon as he sent everyone else away, he knew it wasn't exactly Superman.
You could argue it's when he does say thanks, Superman. Just before that, because Superman says, you're clearly a good soldier for a great country. It could be that sentiment that Superman's just kind of hand-waving everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so out of character that's the moment where he really truly sort of goes, thanks, Superman.
Well, because that was my first flag, going like, okay, this is definitely not Superman, because
I was thinking it the whole time just because it felt easy. I'm like, but it looks a lot like Superman. And I know, just say Redondo does a great Superman. Such a clean, gorgeous Superman.
Well, and then on the other part of that too, to me, is I know how Taylor thinks about Superman. Right, after writing Evil Superman and all of that, he's not that Dark Knight Returns pro-America type Superman. So him saying, oh, you're a good soldier for your country, that's a tell, and I feel Taylor, that's why because that's where I started to feel off in it. Like, and it helps too that it's him and Deadshot, and you're like, well, where's the other shooter drop here? Because there's more going here. So, but yeah, I don't. Man, Tom Taylor got me, because I was like, oh no, they're not killing Deadshot. He's full of it. Oh no, wait, he got shot in the head and pushed out a window.
This is ultimately still comics, and if they really want to find a way to tell us he's not dead, they can.
Right.
But this is as definitive as a dead body gets in comics.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm kind of glad they followed through on it, as it actually hit quite hard, given the last few issues with Deadshot, and the stuff with his daughter has been really really solid. And I don't want a character to die that I like, never do, but I appreciate them just straight up following through on the threat.
Well, and the fact that they gave it away, right? This isn't like a surprise death. They told us it was coming.
Yeah, because the surprise deaths feel more likely to just be like, well, it'll be back to normal next issue somehow or another, because they can't help themselves. They can't help but hype it up. Be like, hey, you'll want to buy copies of this one when it's actually going to happen.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it never even occurred to me that they might be lying. I just expected it to be accurate the whole time.
Because it's comics, and when you come out in front like that, there's a trick.
I don't know.
Right?
There was so much pride in his tweets when he said, "No, we're really doing this," that I just believed him, and I never like.
Yeah, but
I went into this issue saying,
like Matt says, though, he comes from that background where he loves swerving. It's why he has such all the showmanship of it.
Right.
Oh, sure,
I
but
put it past him to lie on Twitter for the sake of the story.
But I came into this issue of the mindset of how's it going to happen, not is it going to happen. So
so did I, and then the longer it went on, I started going, that son of a bitch, he got me. Oh wait, no, he didn't.
I know, it was always going to be the
It's
end.
always in the back of my head that maybe they won't. You know, I take it at face value, but I didn't 100% commit to, they're definitely going to do it. There was probably 20-30% in the back of my head going, yeah, but how are they going to get away from it? Given everything they've said, how are they going to not do it?
They're rewriting reality in like 2 months' time. They can just bring
but
it back
I
like
do
that.
feel like if he's doing stuff going forward, it's going to be based off of this, and his Black Mass is going to be, in my head, he's amassing, fortunes, and he's not on the black market anymore, right? He's not on the criminal underworld. He makes the jump to an actual businessman, right? Using less than legal means.
Presumably someone's going to catch him, otherwise Ted's going to be dead too.
Yeah.
Because he's been pulled out the window with him.
Deadshot did alert the rest of the team that were down on the ground. I'm sure Ares flying around.
Yeah, I would assume so. I would assume that's what's going to happen at the start of next issue. Art's bright and vivid and clean and all those things that have been true with Redondo on the issues. That was a really good issue. Joe, what's so weird about this though is that I actually think it's probably not even in the top 5 of the issues of this. And we're only on issue 9, which just tells you how good this book's been. That I think this is just an okay issue of this. But it's not just okay, it's a great issue. But in the context of these 9 issues, it's in the average side.
Yeah, you feel like this is the exact story Taylor wants to do.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say this is a mid-tier issue of this book. Yeah, I can still give this a very high score and not feel like, I'm cheating that sense either. Because, I mean, how many issues have I given 9s, 10s, 9.5s to this book out of the previous 8? Probably more than half. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Connor?
Also the 8.5.
8.5 is what I'm giving it, so there you go.
I just checked. I've only given one other issue an 8.5. Everything else has been above that. So, it's on the lower end of this run, essentially, for me, but still an 8.5.
Action Comics 1025, Brian Michael Bendis writing with John Romita Jr. Oh, and they are...
Let's talk about Whiplash.
Enjoy.
Well, Connor obviously read this too, because he was so into the last issue that he was forced to read.
I couldn't help myself.
He came back.
I'm going to come out the gate with some positives. First is so we find out kind of Leon's backstory a little bit here, which I really enjoy.
A fragment of it. We get a fragment of it.
That she's actually from Earth 3, which is the evil Earth with Ultraman and Owlman and Superwoman that we saw the Young Justice team visit, right, in their tour of the multiverse.
Can I be critical of the art, but not in the usual Romita Jr. way, right? I want to be critical of something here. Is I don't think they make a point of showing the obvious tell signs. Like, I noticed the speedster, and I was like, he looks kind of familiar. And then I looked at the Superman and went, oh wait, I think that's a U. But they've got his arm covering most of the logo, so you can't actually see that it's the U from Ultraman.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no.
Make this more, because the Green Lantern, the power ring or whatever he's called, because he's been lit up by the explosion and his chest has been hit with the light, he actually just looks like he could be Green Lantern because of the way the light's hitting him. Like, I just feel like this could have been way more obvious in the art, at a glance. So as soon as I turned the page, it was immediately clear this is the crime syndicate, but it isn't. It's the sort of, I turn the page and sort of look at it for a bit and go, wait a minute, I think this might not be. This is these characters.
Yeah.
I feel like
it was the Flash that gave it away to me.
Yeah,
that's Johnny Quick.
This should have been like turn the page. Holy shit! It's the crime syndicate. Instead, it was turn the page. These look a bit off. Wait a minute. And I had to sort of examine it to kind of get the point of what it was doing. So,
so I like the idea that she comes from this corrupted world.
I like the story. I like the story reveal. I like the actual story reveal of what it's doing. The art ruined the reveal for me completely.
Sure. I'm trying to be positive here.
Sure. There you
go. And so I do love the interaction of the super family throughout. This has never been my problem with these issues. Right. So that's where my positives end. Because Bendis does some stuff here that really makes me mad, and I know I'm probably doing the typical Matt overreact. However, this doesn't not make me feel good. The stuff here where we get Red Cloud and Dr. Glory pulling some corrupted Superman out of the multiverse to wage destruction on the super family.
Well, is it not a more successful version of Parasite? That was what I was getting from
basically.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a corrupted Superman because he stole the power and whatnot.
Well, no, but it's a parasite that stole the power from a Superman. So he's not a corrupted Superman. He's a parasite that was successful and took Superman's power.
Sure. I'm just using the that he did, right? Because it's and he used that power. Yeah.
Yeah, I took it as a parasite, not a Superman. So I never thought of it as a corrupted Superman.
Let me see. There's something that led me to that. Maybe because it just said take care of Superman.
Yeah, because I thought it was a parasite, and then they basically described it as a successful parasite that just kept feeding off more and more super people.
Yeah, and imagine what this looks like, not by JRJR.
I know.
Imagine the Ivan Reis version.
I know, it looks so bad. Do you know what's so weird about this? First of all, it's got like it looks kind of owl. It's got like a Court of Owls type of head on it. It's kind of weird. So here's the really annoying thing, and I've always said this about Romita Jr.'s art, is I actually think his layouts are quite good. See the pacing and the build-up when the super family are flying in the sky and they see him coming in the distance, and then you have that wide 2-page layout where they're getting, those wide panels where they're just little dots on either side flying towards each other. It goes in for the close-ups, but then they're getting closer in the wider shots. Like, the pacing of that page is actually really good. The build-up, you feel the build-up to the impact of them coming together. That aspect of it's actually really well done. It's just that the actual art is atrocious. Like, the faces are hideous. It's such a weird thing. The plot of the issue, other than that though, other than the fact that Red Cloud and Doctor, what's her face from Star Labs from Young Justice,
Glory.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They released this parasite. The story otherwise is that Clark has sent a story to Lois for her to try and publish. So they're kind of debating with Agent Chase as if they should be allowed to publish a story even though they're being like raided by the FBI. And eventually Leon shows up and is like, hey, I can prove that Lois is a fraud and she's not from this planet. I mean, Earth technically, but not this Earth. So I'm like, okay, so Leon knows that she's kind of an amalgamation of an alternate Earth that existed before. Even though it's not a different Earth because she's from Earth 3. This is not like Lois being from Earth 3. This is Lois being from a previous version of continuity. There's a difference.
Prime. Yeah. She's still from Earth Prime.
Yeah.
And that touches on what Rucker, I do like that Bendis brings in. That's another positive that I spaced on until you just said. Is I like that it brings what Rucka did in that Lois book into here. And with Jimmy here too, is because he starts talking about, it's like, wait, how much does the Daily Planet cost? So just like the idea of him being able to buy the Daily Planet from out from under her, I do like too. And that kind of plays off of the Fraction story.
Yeah, it's nice to bring those elements in. So I know I think it's interesting that Leon's trying to exploit that as if she can get people to not trust Lois because she's technically not Lois from this Earth, even though she is, and it's just weird. Like, I mean, we'll see how people take it if she actually tries to convince them of anything. But meanwhile, the super family are fighting this parasite, and I assume what you're upset about is that this thing kicks the living shit out of Connor Kent.
Well, and it's Clark goes to go head up with it, and he tells the kids basically, I got this, but Connor being Connor, which I do appreciate, basically sideswipes him, and then ends up looks like being killed. And if he gets killed, I'm gonna be mad.
I mean,
he's just got him back.
He's not dead for a start. I'll just say that right away.
Okay.
He's definitely not dead. Secondly, I wouldn't miss him. It's fine.
Of course you wouldn't. But I just got him back
He's
in
not
the
dead,
pages
though.
of Young Justice, and now this.
Just to weigh in, having not read it, obviously, but Matt was obviously furious about this earlier in the week, so I asked him to fill me in on the short version. It's plausible because we've been saying for like a year now, do they really need two Superboys running around at roughly the same age? Kind of makes one feel redundant, right?
Or you could explore that and explore this brotherhood that could come from them both existing at the same time. All that happens here though is that he gets beat up a lot and he lands and he looks like he's had the shit kicked out of him and they yell his name. That's just standard comic book cliffhanger 101.
I mean, I haven't seen the pages. Matt just told me that
No.
they killed
but at
Connor
the same
Kent, and I was
time,
like, ooh, okay.
They have not killed Connor Kent, right? Let's just end that discussion right now. It's not happening.
I want to double check my message from him just to make sure that is what he said.
This is definitely Matt jumping because they want us to think that he might be dead, but he's definitely we would never see for almost any other character. Matt wouldn't even question this. He wouldn't even think about it that much. He would just assume they're okay.
No, but that's
okay.
But at the same, go ahead, Connor.
So I saw Matt's tweet and I messaged him going, so what's the big thing in action? And I quote, his response was, "It looks like he killed Connor."
Yeah, said looks like.
He definitely jumped straight to that.
Yeah. So I just look at it as this is a thing that killed Superman, right? It absorbed it. It's Parasite that successfully absorbed Superman. So what chance does Connor have, right? In that. And there has to be a consequence. For Leon to do this, it can't just be like, oh man, he messed me up. But thanks to my Luthor genes,
he is the expendable one. I mean, killing John would have so many ramifications for Clark and Lois. Right.
So this is welcome to my logic. Is if you kill somebody, it's going to be Connor.
Look, I'm not saying that he's definitely not going to die, but I don't think he's dead in this moment. And if anything, them having this cliffhanger makes me think he's probably going to be okay because just writing 101.
But then if that's the case, then it's a little bit of okay. So cliffhanger. What's the point of introducing this parasite creature if he just absorbed the Kryptonian side? And what saved him was the tactical telekinesis? I don't know. So just him doing that, I don't know. It's very upsetting to me.
Well, I mean, the point is to establish him as a threat, show that he can beat the shit out of Connor. The idea being that next issue, the rest of the family are going to have a hard time fighting him, and maybe he can take down Superman. It's all about just building up the villains, building up the monster.
Right, but we got this with Red Cloud how many times?
This isn't Red Cloud though. This is Parasite villain. I
know, but we've done so. If we've done it with Red Cloud so many times, if you're going to up it, then you bring in this character.
I feel like I took Matt's words at face value because I saw no reason to doubt him, right? Again, I hadn't seen the pages. Hearing the description of it does sound like Matt's just a bit paranoid and terrified of losing.
Yeah. Basically, all this happening here is typical. This is 101 comic book writing that maybe you'd like or don't like. I mean, that's really neither here nor there at this point. It's just typical comic book writing that Matt, because he's so paranoid that Connor might die, is starting to question it way more than he normally would in ways that make no sense to me.
I don't trust Bendis to not do it.
There are, at least to my knowledge, 2 other instances this week alone of characters looking more dead than this sounds on the final page. Deadshot was, yes, one of them. Another one's in a book to come up. But I'm like, and maybe there's more in books I didn't read. Who knows? But this doesn't sound that bad in comparison to some of those.
Yeah, this is Matt being comic book reaction guy.
This is exactly why they write these cliffhangers, because it works on people like Matt.
I still stand by it. And
Do you remember when
no one else?
Do you remember when they did the whole thing with Captain America with the Hail Hydra reveal?
Oh yeah.
And the internet went wild, as if there wasn't a story behind it, as if this was just it now. and I'm like, Matt, how did you not fall for that?
I hope every single issue
because I'm not dialed in. Because I am not dialed in to Captain America like I am to Superman mythos. So I don't care. I still don't understand the Secret Empire whole thing about it was Cap, but it wasn't Cap. I don't care. This is not Connor, who they went out of their way to deny the existence in Reborn. Don't forget, that's where it became a whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I for one, I'm looking forward to returning to that continuity.
For sure. Hey, let me just say, I can't wait to hear Pete next week. If the spoilers that I saw of Three Jokers turns out to be true,
I haven't read them. I don't want to know any details.
I'm not giving any.
Is it something to do with Babs by any chance?
Maybe. It maybe have to do with Jason. It might have to do with Jason and Babs and Bruce.
Next week's gonna be juicy, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the rumors
are true. I only did a cursory scan, right?
Because you have no self-restraint and had to see at least some part of it.
But no. This is major deflection here. This is comparing something that's actually potentially in an issue of something to something where Matt is just assuming something's going to happen.
If I wanted to be a right dick, I would just come out and say it. But hey,
that wouldn't just be a dick move to me though. That'd be a dick move to anyone listening to this show.
Well, no, that's not true. Exactly. You could edit it out for viewers' sake. You could put a big beef.
But see, I'm not that heartless. Because don't forget, Superman's still my favorite hero, right? I'm not gonna. And plus, I don't want this to be true. I want this to be someone that.
What I want, Matt, is next week, if it's not true, if we read it and you're the only one who's gonna know out of the three of us.
Right.
I want you to tell us what the rumors were.
Yeah.
Sure. Because I had seen Matt's tweet earlier in the week about Action. And I'd kind of forgot about it, and I was reading this, and it sort of popped back into my head, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen that upset Matt so much. And I got to the end of the issue, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And it wasn't until we came out of this show, and he started like hitting towards it, that I was like, oh, he's talking. He actually think Connor's like dead. What? Like, I didn't get it because it's just typical. This is everyday comic book. We have to show the villain strong, so we see a hero get beat up, and yeah, he'll probably be bruised and beat up and whatever, but he's probably fine. Or maybe he is dead, and maybe I can start cracking my jokes again soon. I mean, either way, I win. So, whoever dies, I win. It's a beautiful.
God,
thing.
You are the darkest timeline. Pete is straight up evil Abed.
So Parasite beat up some dude. Who looked like he was left for dead.
Look, that's the big difference. Left for dead.
Yes.
Not dead. Left for dead.
Yes.
Either way, I think it's poor storytelling on Bendis' part. All things considered, he's better than this, right? Maybe not to Connor.
Better than what? What's poor about this? Explain to me what's poor about this.
So I feel like it's a cheap. If it's not, if it's that he's killed Connor. Whatever, story beats wise. Personally, to me, it sucks, but I can understand how people wouldn't take it as hard. But if it's not, if it's just a fake, I feel like the setup of Red Cloud and Dr. Glory having to get something way more strong to throw Superman off his game, and the ultimate sacrifice is Connor. I feel like Bendis is better than that.
I'll give Matt the benefit of the doubt here in that we have multiple times complained about the cliche of this, as Pete put it, it's standard comic book cliffhanger. We have complained about that before, as it's kind of just cheap, boring storytelling cliffhangers.
I mean, this isn't even just comic book though. This is further than that. This is just you show your villain strong by having them beat up someone we know is typically capable. And I think in the context of this particular reveal of this villain, this issue starts with the reveal that Leon is from a different Earth, which is something that we have not known up until this point. We've been teasing Leon for the entire run of Action Comics. And this is where we find out she's from a different Earth. So the idea that she's got a weapon from another Earth, in this case this parasite, ties into that opening reveal. So this doesn't feel... I mean, the actual act of what she's doing here, and that she has this secret weapon, actually feels like it's just tying into what this issue in general is revealing about her, which we both said we liked at the start here.
Yeah, and that's not a problem, because when you think about it, if Lois is from a different Earth, so is Connor. That's what the whole point of his character has been since Bendis brought him back.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that like a whole thing in Young Justice? I vaguely remember you guys talking about him feeling kind of lost in our place near the start somewhere.
Yeah. So again, so if Bendis uses that as to, again, this is just a cheap, big parasite Superman takes out Connor. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's Bendis. To me, Bendis is bigger than that.
Again, I don't recall any implication that he is a Superman in this book. I want to point that out again.
No, he defeated Superman, right?
Yes.
He absorbed Superman's power.
That doesn't make him a Superman, though.
No. Oh, my God. Okay. You're splitting hairs like what we talked about before.
You keep calling him a Superman. You've said it like 10 times.
You literally just made me choke on my whiskey.
Right. Yeah. Okay, this parasite super weapon. Is that better?
Why'd you have to say that? Just say he's parasite. He's a parasite.
No, he's a parasite super weapon. He absorbed Superman's powers. He killed Superman.
If Parasite absorbs like a sun's power, like a star.
Mm-hmm.
You don't call that like a star weapon parasite. It's just Parasite. It's just charged up.
No.
I think my understanding of Parasite is when he absorbs the power, he doesn't take their powers necessarily.
Yeah, he's not a Mazo.
He absorbs and uses that energy to enhance himself.
Okay, real quick. Parasite can't fly, right?
Typically, no, Parasite can't fly, yes.
No, he can't. Even if he absorbs Superman's power, he can't fly, right?
Yes.
This one flies.
Well,
this one's flying.
Whatever.
Yes, different Earth. Parasite.
At a beeline to Clark. That's the great page
this Earth's Parasite can fly then.
Yeah.
Right. No. Okay. I'm done splitting hairs. Either way, it's a super weapon. It absorbs Superman. I'm calling it an evil Superman at this point.
It's a very strong parasite.
It's not an evil Superman.
If this way, no. But if this was a Dark Knight thing, this would be an evil Superman from a dark multiverse.
No, it wouldn't be, because that's not what it is. It's not a Superman.
Wait. So is Black Monday not a Batman in metal?
No, he is a Batman, because the gimmick of the Dark Multiverse stuff is that every single character we see who's a Dark Batman, who's a variation, are all Bruce Waynes from other Earths. This is not a Clark Kent from another Earth.
But that's not always true with the Batmans.
This is.
I think it is.
No, it's not, because the Pearl, also in that issue, is his mother.
Okay, fine. It's still Wayne, though, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. There's some tangential ones that aren't exactly Bruce, but they're all part of that lineage.
I don't care. This is an evil Superman, as far as I'm concerned.
It's not evil Superman.
Yeah,
I just
killed
like how
Connor Kent.
Matt is essentially putting this parasite that has absorbed a Superman up against Ultraman. Is kind of that's what he's saying. They're the same.
Yes. Yes.
No!
Because no. Ultraman's not. He's an evil Superman, right? He's not Clark Kent. He gets his powers via kryptonite. So you can't. So by your guys' logic, you couldn't call Ultraman an evil Superman.
Oh, he is an evil Superman.
Right. So is this. This is an evil parasite Superman.
No, he's a parasite. He's just a parasite. That's all he is.
He's a parasite Superman.
He's just a.
I almost wish I'd read this so I could have an informed argument. But
he's a very successful parasite, because he's introduced as this is just a parasite that killed that world's Superman. So and then he kept feeding on more super people, and he is super strong as a result of that. He is the ultra parasite. He's the uber parasite, but he's still a parasite.
What's another word for uber? Pete.
Just because he's a super parasite doesn't make him a Superman.
Right, he's a little Superman parasite. It's fine. I'm just calling it. The more you push against, the more I'm going to dig in. When are you going to?
I can't wait. Please tell me, Parasite wasn't dealt with in this issue. So I'll be honest.
No. He's still there. He's just knocked out Connor.
This is going to come right back up again next issue with some sort of resolution as to who was right, and I'm here for it.
I don't think it will. I don't think they're going to talk about it more than just he's some parasite, and he's never just going to be mentioned beyond that, unless they do something where we get the origin. In which case, that could be fascinating. If they somehow, here's the thing though, if they do reveal in some way that this is a Clark Kent from another Earth that became a parasite, I'm still not going to like concede the argument because nothing in this issue tells us that. That's just jumping. He's just.
So what Pete's saying is he also enjoys splitting hairs, so that's fine. It doesn't take any understanding away of what it is. To me, this is an evil Superman.
I cannot believe Matt has got the reading of Action Comics this time. So wrong.
I would like people. So, just to clarify, so for people in the comments or on Twitter, wherever you're going to respond to this query that I'm about to pose to you, right? Do you think this is a Clark Kent a la a evil Batman from Metal? Or is this just a parasite from another Earth that has been successful in its endeavors to suck the power of various Supermen and other such characters? Do you know what the funniest thing about this whole argument is I never predicted it because I never thought it was a question as to what this thing was as I was reading
because
it.
you went off on it because I called it a corrupted Superman.
Because
Either way,
be fair, you know how much I hate agreeing with Pete on anything.
Oh, I know.
A parasite that absorbs Superman is not a corrupted Superman. It is
but if he gets Superman's powers,
but he doesn't have Superman's powers.
He's flying. How many times do you see Parasite fly?
Okay.
When he absorbs stuff.
Two things. One, different Earth parasite, different rules. Two, he says he's absorbed multiple super people. Maybe he's that charged up he can fly now.
Also,
We've never seen him that charged up before.
Even if the parasite from this Earth, right, can absorb the powers literally and then have the powers, right? Let's say that's happening. It's not just that he can fly himself. Even if that's happening, you wouldn't call Amazo a corrupted Superman because he happens to be able to mimic the powers.
No, he's Amazo, and there's a complete distinction there.
This is Parasite. There's a complete distinction there.
Powers. The whole point of Amazo is he's an evil Justice League in one body.
Yeah, but he's not. You wouldn't call him a corrupted Justice League. He's a being with all their powers.
That's the whole point of why Ivo created him. It was to fight the Justice League.
Do you know what? I hope Connor's dead at this point. I hope he's dead just at the end of this argument.
And I hope that spoiler comes out soon, next week, so I can watch you freak out.
Is this going to be a case of where, you know how I wasn't super hot on that first issue of Three Jokers?
Yeah.
Am I going to have backup on the next one, potentially?
Maybe. Maybe.
Great. Now I'm worried about Three Jokers next week because I was hoping to enjoy it because I enjoyed the first issue.
Yeah, you know what? And I was hoping that Connor Kent could live, and the fact that you're able to... Now, I am glad that you're going to worry about Three Jokers.
Man, it's been so petty because Connor's maybe dead.
I knows no bounds. I'm not talking with me through the internet. He knows my petty knows no bounds.
It's true. He will.
Oh my god. Connor's is as dead as the Golden Knight season. All right.
You know, but that's even worse though, because the Golden Knights could be worse off for it. This is, I'm used to know Connor for 10 years. It's fine, whatever. I don't like it, but the Golden Knights are making some moves that might not be good for the future. Looking at you, Petrangelo.
Oh. Okay. I guess we should rate. Yeah, we should rate this issue of Action Comics. Matt, what you giving it?
I'm giving this a 5. Mostly for super.
I'm going with. I actually really like the story in this issue. It feels like a step up from the last one for sure. The art's still terrible.
I feel like you've said that on at least like 8 issues of the past year in Action Comics. I quite like the story.
Oh sure, yeah. Well, I think the last one though was one where. I feel like either the last one or the one before, there was one where I wasn't asking the story either. Like it was kind of like a both, like a two-fronter kind of thing. Whereas I actually really like the reveal of who Leon is here. It opens this intrigue to her and why she maybe, like, it also explains why she has that 1938 car. The Action Comics issue 1 car. Maybe that came from her Earth, or maybe when she was multiverse hopping, she got that kind of thing. But that said, the art is still absolute garbage. But I do really enjoy this rendition of a Parasite.
I'm not taking the bait.
And the possibility of some dude with an S in his chest being dead is also kind of intriguing.
God, what year is it?
And so I may actually also agree with the 5. The idea being for me that the art just tanks it. So 5 out of 10 for me. That was a much more eventful discussion than I was expecting it to be. Aquaman 63, Jordan Clark writing with Marco Santucci on the art. This should be a quick conversation. I don't think I have a lot to say on this.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It exists. Yeah. Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
No. It's fine. Wait, what book is this?
Aquaman 63.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Make sure we were talking about Shazam, which I didn't read.
What other book could have gotten that reaction from all of us? Just it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. It's the end of the 2-part fill-in, because obviously we do have Kelly Sue coming back to finish her run, which is like maybe 2 issues after this.
Yeah.
This is just a 2-parter, which, because I remember last month I was like, I went to read this all excited for the next issue of Kelly Sue's Aquaman, and was like, oh yeah, it's a fill-in. And in this issue, I'd kind of forgotten again until I started it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's this weird Jackson 2-parter that they're doing.
Fill in by the numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very by the numbers, and I appreciate what it does for Jackson and his relationship with Manta and his grandpa.
I do like the idea that his AI grandpa is going to be on his side now, and that's something he'll have now going forward.
I think that he was a bit overwritten, the AI Manta.
Sure.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bubbles where up till now I feel like he's not been speaking in paragraphs like he was here. It was like, a sentence here. It was while he was a replication of the personality, he felt a little bit robotic in the sense of maybe that was just how he spoke, but it felt like
this felt like it was his actual grandpa he was talking to.
Do you know what this felt like? It felt like Jor-El talking in the fortress.
Yeah,
but he was going I know my son. He does. Yeah, it really felt like that at times.
Yeah, it's not a bad comparison. Maybe it's interesting. This is a version of a Jor-El character who's not actually that noble or good, but he's kind of maybe in this issue at least coming around and redeeming a little bit, and he's certainly been better than Black Manta is, if nothing else.
No question about that.
It's basically just them fighting the trench and Zebel, and Jackson using his powers and getting a motivational speech here or there, and kissing the guy before he leaves, and
it also seems like Zebel stole something from the trench.
Yeah, because the trench wants something back. Yeah.
Yeah, which I did like. I like that they weren't just mindlessly attacking.
That felt like it's like working from Kelly Sue's notes and setting up stuff for the last few issues, because I think that's presumably what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the trench in Atlantis.
Because there's one page at the start where Aquaman and so are fighting like the Horde, and they're like, "Where's Jackson? Oh, I better have a good excuse." And that's all we get of like the main stuff. It's just like a little reminder that this is going on.
Yeah.
In the background. I'll have to admit, I kind of forgot what Black Manta was trying to make Jackson do, because there's a whole thing at the end where he comes back and says, "I'm not doing it, suck it," basically. You don't threaten my mother again. Kind of sticks up, stands up for himself, and it's a good moment for that. But I actually couldn't remember for the life of me what Black Manta was trying to make him do last issue.
So, did I miss that Zebel is now not like an alternate dimension? It's just a different kingdom.
It's been that way for a while.
At least,
yeah.
I've been that way since like the start of the New 52.
Yeah.
Okay. I still have thought that it was still it was Bermuda Triangled. Like they had to go through that it's in an offset pocket reality kind of deal.
I think in the New 52 they played it as it was hidden.
Yeah.
But hidden in the sea, and the Atlanteans didn't necessarily know where it was.
I mean, if it's still the case, then all the writers in the last 10 years have basically just not addressed the fact that they have to like find it whenever they go
so
there.
it was just always in the back of my mind. That's how
this
it was.
pretty consistent with how it's been for
Yeah.
a while. That's
Okay.
definitely not
I mean,
something I would complain about.
It wasn't a problem outside of, you would think Manta would know where all these different kingdoms are. You know, like.
Yeah, I did kind of like Jackson going to his mum and saying, "Hey, look, I was in Zebel," and she's not been there in years, obviously, and it's kind of an emotional moment for them. I enjoyed that moment well enough. For the most part, though, this was kind of just like it has that kind of filler, like it's a bit of a chore to get through because it's not really what you're enjoying about the run, so you're just kind of getting through it because I may as well read it.
And I like that her dad was like the poet laureate of Zebel, and there's a statue to him. So I did like that he got to see that, and it's Jackson being able to explore both sides of his heritage, which that was really cool. And with a trench attack in there, you know, him trying to be a hero. So I do like Jackson a lot as a character. I'm glad we're getting some stuff with him.
Yeah,
but yeah, it is kind of just ultimately just like this is a side quest, you know. And you're just like, oh, okay.
He's one of those characters where I don't feel like we've seen his full potential yet because we've not had a writer been given like a run or at least a mini to really explore and sort of dive in.
A mini is really what he needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like the idea that him being aquakinetic is like it's a gift, almost like he's a mutant for X-Men. That it's not like all Zebel, because you know I had made the assumption like him and Mara both have Zebel heritage, so that's part of their thing. But no, they're both just like special.
Yeah, I get the impression maybe it's like Zebel nobility, maybe like the upper classes.
And he also has electrokinesis, which you know I'd forgotten about, but it's actually kind of a handy thing to mix with water because you can
it travels.
You can electrocute people with it. This is actually really. I mean, obviously that's obvious with electrokinesis, but I mean, he can literally electrify watery swords and shit like that. Like it's, you know.
It's a very conductive medium.
Yes.
Yeah, which they always point out that you know, Magneto as being the master of magnetism, because of what magnetism sets up with electricity, he should also be able to do electrical things. So I kind of like that idea that they go one with the other. Same would go with Electro, that if he's the master of electricity, he should be able to do magnetic stuff. So, but no, this fits in well.
Yeah. It was fine. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Connor?
Even 6 from me.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6 as well. That's fine. It's, you know, that's what it
might
is.
be one of the quickest discussions we've ever had on it.
Yeah, honestly, as I was reading them, I'm going
dive on action.
Well, I mean, because honestly, most of the issue is just them running from the trench and that's it, and fighting the trench.
Santucci does a fine job.
Yeah, they are so right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing special, but it's solid.
Yeah. All right. Justice League Dark issue 26. Ram V writing with Amancay and Nahuelpan on the art. I got to rest my voice for a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is definitely like the final arc of this story, and by that I mean the story from the start of the run.
It seems like he's getting to wrap up Tynan's Upside Down Man stuff, but in his way. Like I feel like maybe Tynan gave Ram the
Cliff Notes.
Like here's kind of what he represented and what I was meaning to do, and then I got Batman, and Ram's like, okay, I can work this in, and it's really good because it really shows the culmination of what we've had with the Other Kind and Hecate and Swamp Thing and the Injustice, what do we call them? The Injustice League Dark, and what they had done with Swamp Thing and him. And then when Ram V came in and did the Pillars of Life stuff, everything seems to be coming here that what magic is.
It's all tied up really, not neatly in that, it has a nice clean ending, but more neat in the sense it references all the various facets of this book over the past 2 years and kind of weaves them in to a larger point.
Down to the Lords of Chaos and Order with what's his name? Khalid.
Yeah.
With Khalid finally assuming Fate, the title, which is real cool because Bobo needs someone to kind of help them out here, and he comes looking for Kent, but Kent's long gone, and he's like, I need you to do this for me, so it kind of, so go ahead.
Yeah, and this is where it starts tying into the idea of the issue, which is also the name of the story of this issue is belief, and the idea that he needs Khalid to believe that he's good enough to be Fate. There's no point in him just putting the helmet on and go and winging it. He's got to commit to it, and that's kind of what this decision is here.
Yeah, and I also like that he makes the one thing I always loved about Zatanna and Zatara to a lesser extent is that she is a stage magician. She doesn't necessarily use her magic for that. It's still stage magic, right? And here, I like that Ram V takes the moment to show what the difference is of magic versus stage magic, and how stage magic is a suspension of belief. You know that they're pulling a trick on you, but when it's really successful, you don't care. And that's always something that I loved about like Penn and Teller, is they would show you how they do the trick, right? And then they take it one step closer to make you question what they just showed you. And that's ultimately what Ram V is doing here with the comparison of, yeah, but ultimately it is magic, right? Because magic's all about belief. And if you believe what you're seeing, what does it matter if they're doing a trick to you?
Yeah, that comes up near the start because Constantine and Bobo go and visit Xanadu.
And the whole idea of tarot.
Yeah, and she kind of pulls this up of, it's about illusion and intuition, and it's like, yeah, tricks are illusions ultimately, and so is a lot of actual magic in the way that it works in the DC universe, but it's the belief in it that gives it form and reality.
Power, right?
Yeah,
and that's so Xanadu ties it to Hecate that way, and that the Upside Down Man was all this negativity that she felt, magic being misused. Right? It created this dark other of her. And now it's kind of, because of that belief that it was so bad, it's given it form to the other kind, right? Did I read that wrong?
No, that's
and I feel like that summation was better than what Tynan did. No shots to Tynan exactly. But that whole idea of the dark other being created through Hecate, I think that Ram V distilled it really well.
I think it doesn't undermine anything that Tynan does. It doesn't take back anything Tynan did. It adds another layer to it. It adds some more depth that makes it ultimately more interesting.
Whereas I felt like Tynan was really leaning into the horror aspect of dark, I do feel like Ram V is way more interested in the actual magic side.
It reminds me a lot more of like Lemire's Justice League Dark stuff, where it was a bit more kind of pulpy, magic-y fun.
Yeah. And so the fact that, it's not like this hopelessness, almost Lovecraftian version of the other kind. It's like, oh no, this is just a creature. He's just a creature, and someone else is here. Another creature that they can deal with and could be back, but it's not like oh man, if he breaks through, we're in trouble that I was getting from Tynan. So
yeah, so they're there in the other world, and they've got a shield up, and they're doing what they can. They're not even like fighting the Upside Down Man. They're kind of debating him with this ideological debate as to function about the belief of magic, and that's how they'll win ultimately.
Right.
And this is where the other maybe death that is probably not a death comes in.
Right.
The Upside Down Man, he spites Constantine because Constantine's basically is like, you believe that magic is absolute, but the fact is we all believe that magic has a cost, and our belief of that will spread even in this realm, and that will limit you, and there will be a cost for you as well, even if you don't believe it, because enough of us do, you will.
Right.
And the Upside Down Man's like, nah, enough of this shit, and blasts him with like a laser beam thing out of his hand, and it goes straight through his chest, like right through seemingly his heart. And that's the final page is Zatanna cradling Constantine's potentially dead body.
Yeah, a smirking dead Constantine.
Yes, which I don't think he is dead. There's a trick here. There's because again, going back to Xanadu, there's the final tarot card. You have to draw 3, and he's like, there's no point. It's always the fool with me, and it always is. And she draws it, and it's death.
But as not that I'm an expert on tarot, but I listen to enough paranormal podcast stuff where they touch on tarot. Death isn't usually a death card. It's a finality card, right?
Yeah.
And if this was the ultimate play for Constantine to help, wall off the other kind, then of course the death card's going to come into play.
It is, and I think it's really notable that the start of this issue spends 3 or 4 pages there, and we are talking about stage magic and trickery as opposed to physical magic in the same way. And that's very Constantine, right? Just scumbaggery, trickery, just not literally magic himself out of situations. It's the bluffing that is his superpower, if you will.
That's I'm not a big Constantine fan, but that is the thing that I do like about him is like, yeah, sure, he does all these underhanded magical, but that's not what endears him to people. It's the fact that he is this pickpocket almost, that he'll steal your wallet.
It's the roguish aspect of it. Yes, he does quantifiably have the magical ability to back up most of his claims.
Yeah, but that's never his go-to. He wants to get out.
It's get out the easiest way. Like I say, he knows there's a cost. Right. There's always a cost. So the less he does, the less he has to pay, ultimately.
Right. Exactly.
So why would he resort to that if he doesn't have to?
Right. So that's all
what it feels like here, right?
Right. And so again, with the smirk, and this is different. I'll bring this differently from the Action Comics debate, whereas here I feel like there's the narrative that, let's say this is it for Constantine, right? And that's his ultimate smirk, right? He paid the cost finally. He's gotten out of it. It plays in context that in order to seal the other kind there, he had to sacrifice himself.
Would be an interesting.
It's narratively it fits.
Yeah.
Right. Or it is a trick, and it doesn't feel cheap. It's not just a death for the death's sake. So, but again, with the smirk that's Ramvi playing with, and Nahuelpan at the same time, who draws a really good Constantine. Like he is scruffy enough, and you do believe that this guy is capable of anything. So, but yeah, really good issue. Like
no, it is.
Ramvi.
I think we've got. It feels like maybe one more before the end of this this era of Justice League Dark, and then I know we've got the break for
right. And he said, "Don't you worry." Don't you worry about Justice League Dark. It's going to be reworked.
He's very clear. This is not the end of his run. While it is the end of this story, he will be doing more stuff after Endless Winter on the title for sure. And I'm really excited to see what he comes up with from scratch, as opposed to just finishing off Tynan's threads, which I think he's done a wonderful job of. But new stuff. I'm intrigued.
Did you read Demon Knights?
Of course I did.
Cornell? Yeah. I feel like Ramvi's idea of Justice League Dark is more in line with that. Demon Knights.
It's Demon Knights meets Lemire's JLD as opposed to Tynan's cosmic horror almost.
Right. And both are equally valid, but I'm way more dialed in, I think. As much as I love Tynan's run, I think Ramvi is more my speed of what I like to read.
I think I like this style of JLD, the Demon Knights in DC Comics. I prefer that. Whereas the cosmic horror, I feel like I almost just want it to be separate. Maybe as a black label version or just a create our own thing entirely. I think that might, I'd probably enjoy it more there with a little bit more freedom.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea of a body horror idea of Bobo the chimp, right? Like, there's this ape that knows that knows about life and the impermanence. Whereas we think of most animals just kind of going out about. Like, there's a horror aspect to that character, but I much prefer the pulpy. Hey, this chimp's a detective.
He's a detective with a badass sword.
Yeah,
he literally wears a Sherlock Holmes deerstalker.
Right.
Like,
it's great.
The inspirations there are clear, and they're not trying to hide it. And I like when they just lean into that and have fun with it.
So, all right. So, what'd you rate in this Justice League Dark?
It's an 8.5 from me. Really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna give it a 9. I think also I just have a real honeymoon period with Ramvi right now since he took over solely. So I'm gonna enjoy as much as I can.
Between this and that issue of Catwoman, I know he has an OGN coming from Image in the next month or so.
Has it blue and the green?
It is, and your mic's gone, by the way. But I love the previews. It looks good. I'm pretty tempted.
Batman Superman issue 12, Joshua Williamson and Max Raynor on the art. Joshua Williamson is the third book he's written this week, so he's
busy man.
Put in the work. So Batman Superman 12 is the start of a new arc. Which, in fact, the first thing I'd probably say about this one is that it actually follows on mainly from the Kandor story with Zod, which was the sort of the first proper arc of this book after the first one, which was mostly just a tie-in thing. But there was a concern early on because it started like having a lot of editors' notes, like talking about other things in continuity.
Oh my god, this book has so many editors' notes.
Right.
Too many.
Where I was like, honestly, by the time I got to there, I was like, you know what? This is actually just a story that's to do with this book. The only thing it really ties into is this book's own previous arc. There's actually nothing wrong with it. But they fit in so many editor's notes, you would be forgiven for thinking that it's like some weird sort of tie-in book where you have to know all this other stuff going on. You don't. Most of it you could just ignore.
Just scrolling through what they have. So the first one is Batman Superman Volume 1 of this, the Secret Six stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Metal Men. Then you've got Event Leviathan in the same editor's note, I might add. That they just kind of shoved those ones in together. I'm pretty sure there's more. Okay, then we've got on the same page, we have 3 more. The Justice League Doom War, Supergirl, then Batman Superman issue 8, and I'm sure there's still like another one or two after that. Somewhere. No, but that's like 6 editors' notes over this. That's a lot.
That's a lot. The story of this though is that Batwoman and Steel, which we're getting a bit of a team up with them here in this book, where they've shown up to the Batcave and there's a lot of destruction. Something's wrecked the cave, and they're not really sure what. Distress speaking essentially went out on the Justice League communication devices, and they find a video from Batman on the computer, which is something Batman sent, basically explaining what's happened, where essentially a new version of chemo, like it's like a chemo like digital virus, because they see like this great 2-page spread of like a volcanic version of chemo attacking Batman and Superman.
No, what it was, it's just this hacker group that stole the responsometer that created chemo, and they threw it into a volcano.
Yeah, but there's another one that gets made later in the Batcave, because apparently this comes from Kryptonian tech. It was something that came from Kandor when it was released back in that arc. Because there's the purple version or the pink version of chemo we get in the Batcave.
Yeah, but so what led them is that Bruce kind of has this algorithm that keeps track of different threats, and then that's what ends up getting weaponized via this I would say Kryptonian virus from Kandor.
The technobabble nonsense.
Yeah. So it takes the responsometer, turns them into this new version of chemo, and that wrecks the cave. And what turns out happens is that Batman and Superman are actually on the dark side of the moon in like what the story's called here is what Planet Brainiac, which is essentially bubbled cities on the moon.
The visual of it, I'm calling it Brainiac's Triangle.
Sure. Yeah. You call it that if you want. And it's Batwoman and still like, okay, we have to go deal with this. But the message was corrupted and they didn't get all of it. So we find out at the end that Batman actually said, under no circumstance follow us to the moon. Meanwhile, Batwoman and Steel are trying to get a ship that Natasha's built for the Titans so they can take a trip to the moon.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Do you know what I do really like about this issue?
Yes.
I don't think I have ever read a Batwoman and Steel team up.
No, yeah, I like that. I like that it's focused on 2 characters that don't really have a book or any place to have a story right now.
I feel like both kind of fill the same void for their respective character.
Yeah, they're part of the family, but not really. They're kind of disconnected.
Yeah. But you can always count on them if you need them for Steel show up for whatever Superman needs help with, and same with Batwoman. So, but no, I like that a lot. I miss seeing Steel.
They play off each other pretty well. Obviously, we haven't got enough of them yet. I'm sure we'll get probably a couple more issues of this. This book has tended to have like 2 to 3 issue arcs for the most part.
Yeah.
After that first one, which I actually like. I like it not just being 6 issues every time. I feel like we're getting a really rapid pace of just nice, brisk little side stories here.
Yeah, and this one, like I say, it's great to focus on these 2 characters that don't really have a home right now. Obviously, one Bat character, one super character. And then you have Batman and Superman who are being tested on Brainiac World, where they've got like special Kryptonian shackles for Clark that they're taking off occasionally for them to like, because they're testing them individually, then they're testing them together. Almost like Brainiac's trying to build a system that'll be impervious to Batman and Superman. The final page is essentially robotic versions of Bane, Killer Croc, Who's that in the back, actually?
I don't know with the
Holding
axe
the
hand.
axe.
Yeah, the axe. Is that maybe Rogol Zar? Is that robotic Rogol Zar?
Maybe.
That's pretty
And
funny.
is the lady supposed to be Banshee?
I think it looks like Silver Banshee to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
no,
hold on. That's
also-
no, sorry. That's not That's Doomsday, not Croc. That's Doomsday.
yeah, I was gonna say it looks
Yeah.
like, but I can see how you think it's Croc.
Yeah, it looks like Croc from the video game, like from Arkham, the Arkham
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He's got that
I wouldn't-
stature, but it's actually Doomsday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know who the big guy with the axe hand outside of Rogol Zar, but if it's Rogol Zar, I mean, weird flex,
Yeah, and it seems weird then that we'd only have one Bat villain, right?
right?
Yeah, that's true. It has to be a
And
Superman.
also,
It has to be a Bat villain. You're right.
yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
it should
Also,
be.
Unless that's not
between
Silver Banshee.
right, but who is it then?
No, I don't know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the only other option.
So
Unless you want to tell me that's like Magpie or something.
right, I don't know. I was gonna say between the Harley Quinn TV show and some of the stupid stuff WWE's doing with Retribution, I can't look at Bane seriously anymore. I just can't.
He just wants his chair, Matt.
He just wants his chair. Which I'll tell you that's become a joke in my house, where I'm not gonna do a bad Bane impression here, but he just wants his chair. But yeah, so
There's nothing wrong with a Bane impression, man.
yes, yeah. He's tell you would love him on Harley Quinn because they go all in on that version.
They go
of
all
that
in on that
voice.
voice just to make it funnier, and
Yeah,
it does. It works.
Uh-huh.
They say, just doing a silly voice shouldn't make it funnier,
well,
but it does.
no, and the fact too that he's really not a villain because he really does believe in rehabilitation.
He does, yeah.
So he's just his methods might be wrong, but yeah. So I can't look at and then this Bane. I'm just like, oh man, I'm imagining him with that voice.
I like how he still has the venom, which is presumably kryptonite that they're pumping in
Maybe.
through him.
That would make sense in the context of him being a robot Bane designed to fight Superman.
Actually, I also I really like the art in this. I think there's a lot of really nice pages, real nice flow to it. Like that first page in particular, where there's basically no text. It's just the ruined Batcave, in these panels. I think it looks really, really good.
That's right. It's not my favorite the book's had in terms of art. The
Not
color,
mine either.
the coloring is a little bit more kind of muted, I'd say, in this
Yeah,
story.
there's a lot more shading from the pencil as well, rather
Yeah.
than just the inks. That gives it some. It definitely sets it apart from some previous art in this book, because I think each arc has had a different artist, right?
Yeah, they've been. I mean, it was made sense
Feels
because
like
they're all individual arcs, so it feels neat enough the way they're rotating through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a solid issue. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I'm excited to see more of the actual Batwoman Steel team up next time.
Yeah.
So that should be
Yeah,
good.
me too. This has been a fun book with fun, definitely B-level stories, and this seemingly is going to continue that trend.
Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Right, Connor?
Yeah, 7.5 from me.
And if there had been a robotic Superman here, I might have agreed that's a corrupt Superman. Maybe. I'll give it a 7.5 myself. So Shazam issue 15, Jeff Loveness writing with Brandon Peterson on the art, which Matt did reveal earlier that he has not read.
Yep, I not read this one.
Which is a shame because it's actually quite a good issue. Jeff Loveness has continued to impress me with all of his villains, and I'd be delighted for him to either get a Shazam ongoing or a Justice League ongoing, or whatever.
What are we seeing him on next? I know he's filling in somewhere else.
He's doing something soon.
Yeah.
But he did the 2-part story about Black Mercy and Justice League just there. He did a previous fill-in to Shazam and then this one. The story of this one, which is very standalone, it doesn't feel like it's meant to be a climax to anything. It's just a nice little story on its own. With Billy gets a new substitute teacher. Their teacher kind of there's not really much of an explanation, I don't think. Just doesn't show up. And it's this story of how he hates this teacher. This teacher tries to explain to him that learning history is important, and just being obsessed with superheroes and robot punching and all that kind of thing. You don't understand the context. You have to understand these things. And Billy's annoyed. He skips the rest of class, goes to be Shazam and save people and doing all these other things. And he starts to question, you see, I'm helping, I'm doing things. This is all you need to do. You don't have to necessarily think about it too much. But then he comes across a burning building, and it turns out his substitute teacher is in that burning building. So he goes to save her. He's like, oh, this is a coincidence, and he's kind of awkward around her. He almost uses her name, and he has to kind of disguise the fact that he's, obviously not someone that knows her. But she doesn't want to leave immediately. She's like, no, there's other people in here. We have to help them first. And so they end up kind of working together to help everyone in the building. And Shazam kind of just awkwardly tries to leave, but sees her crying on his way, away from her, and sort of comes back and says, hey, are you okay? And she hugs him. And it becomes this kind of thing where he's learning that he has to, like, it's more than just, saving people from burning things or catching cars and stuff like that. And they kind of come, he kind of starts to respect her more as a person. And there's also kind of a thing where he might have a crush on her as well.
As teenagers do.
Yeah, as you would expect. So it's kind of an interesting little story. It's a very Shazam unique kind of perspective, because you have the kid who's really in the in the body, and just this little moments of him being a bit more of a human and kind of growing up a little bit and learning some valuable lessons. To the point where at the end of the issue he comes in as Billy at school and apologizes for being a dick, basically. To the point where she's so untrustworthy of him, saying, wait, is this a trick? Is this for TikTok or YouTube? Although it wasn't. It was YouTube and Talk Tech. Really, Talk Tech? That's the best you could come up with the fake TikTok. But he's like, no, I'm being genuine. I'm trying to be nice. So he tries to, like, because one of the things she brings up when he's talking to her is that she's like, oh, I'm trying to get through to these kids and they never listen. I just got out of a relationship. I had to move city. My life's terrible. So he's trying to give her a break on both fronts. So it's kind of a sweet story. I will mention in the opening, because the reason why I mentioned fighting robots is because the opening before he has his day in class where he meets her. There's a scene where he's in Japan fighting a giant robot, and he's questioning, hey, is this a good robot or a bad robot? Also, when someone says bad robot, I can't help but go, bad robot, in my head. But, and he says, because I just watched the Iron Giant last night, and I don't want to hurt anyone's best friend. And then he gets punched, and he punches back, and as he's punching, he goes, Superman! And then he questions in his narration, does he like that movie, or does it make him, does it bum him out? And I thought, wait a minute, in that movie, like, Superman's a comic book character. This is breaking all sorts of weird meta laws here. I guess I have to accept that in the DC universe, the movie's slightly different and doesn't have the comic book element.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you could kind of say that anytime they reference, like, any movie, because it goes through a couple of degrees and you're like, well, now this is meta.
Sure, but you have to work a little bit. But this directly has Action Comics issue 1, like in the movie. You know,
it's a very slightly edited version where it has not Action Comics, but some other comic issue 1 that, because there's still comics in the DC universe. We know that. Yeah,
and they base them on the real heroes. So yeah, it would just be, here's some news footage of Superman, and that would be what inspires Iron Giant instead of the comic books.
But you wouldn't have to change that much.
Yeah. But it was a sweet story of Billy once again learning to be a little bit less of a dick and actually growing up a touch.
How many times do we have to have those stories till he's not a dick?
I mean, this is the thing though. He's not a complete dick in this issue to begin with. He's just a regular teenager. You know, because at the start of New 52 Shazam that John was writing, he was a complete little shithead. He's not a shithead. He's just, he's like a lot of kids at 14 or whatever.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, I was just I guess taking umbrage at your description then, really.
Coming of age might be a better. He learns a little lesson, because ultimately what he's complaining about is having to do schoolwork and learn about the past. I mean, it's not like
it does sound pretty shit.
So, I thought it was it's a weird final issue. Like, it's weird that this came after the other one, but it does feel very in the status quo of where it is right now. It's just kind of a shame there's no more Shazam to come soon. Maybe they'll do some sort of relaunch once things have calmed down with metal and whatever they're doing afterwards. So, not that I'm expecting it in any great way, but if I'm rating this, a solid 7.5, I think. I had a good time with it. The art is generally pretty nice, especially early on when all the fire stuff is happening. Like there's a lot of nice, bright, bold, vivid colors, a lot of particles, if that makes sense. I know it's weird to talk about particle effects in a comic book, but it felt like there was a lot of little bits to it. It felt really busy in a good way, very sparkly. Again, weird word to use to describe it, but it had an energy to it. But yeah. So there you go, Shazam, issue 15, which takes me on to a Patreon book. So yeah, every month, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, some of our patrons at the higher tiers can make myself or Connor read a book, and in this case I am reading American Vampire issue 10. And every time I go to do one of these I have to check what issue I'm on, because I always forget. Because it's not in the list of this week's books. So, Anyway, so we finished the second arc with the last issue, and this takes us on to a two-parter, which ends the second trade. So this is issue 10, first half of this, which is set in 1936, and is the story of Hattie, who has been held captive by an old-school vampire in a basement, purely so that every month when the moon's completely gone, which as we've previously established is when the American vampires, the new type of vampires, when they're at their weakest, he'll come in and basically just test different substances, different chemicals, different formulas to see if they can find what the weakness of the American vampires are. So she's just chained up, given stuff to eat, when I say stuff, I mean like animals to drain the blood off and stuff. And comes in once a month. And all while she's obsessed with the idea of getting to Pearl, because Pearl, left her for dead, but didn't obviously do the job properly by destroying the heart or the head. So we have this scientist vampire who comes in every month and just basically gives her a variety of chemicals. So it's a super dark story, but meanwhile we do catch up with Pearl and Henry and their happy life together. And their stuff is basically just, he's grown a little bit older. It's been 10 years now they've been together. And he's a little concerned that he's going to be getting old and dying, and she's still the same age. And they both have this running fear or thought in their head of like, why doesn't she turn him into a vampire? Why can't they both be like this? And it's like they almost always think about it, but then they always go back to being sort of normal couple again. Every time they come to that point, and it's like, and I'm reading this thinking, if you're going to do it, you may as well do it before he gets past a certain age. Like surely mid-30s is a better time to turn yourself into this is what you're going to be like for immortality before, rather than 55 when you're a little bit long in the tooth. I mean, don't get me wrong, immortality at 55 still doesn't sound that bad. Immortality at 75 sounds a little bit miserable.
I don't know, maybe if you have a bit of warning, because maybe you're in your mid-30s, you've not really given too much of a shit, you kind of let yourself go a bit, you're like, hey, 20 years turn you into a vampire. Get yourself in shape.
I mean, I suppose, yeah, you could prep for it a little bit. I mean, especially since becoming a vampire might actually cure some things that might have been wrong. Like, let's say you've got a bad leg or something like that. When you become a vampire, that probably gets fixed.
I really hope so. Otherwise,
I mean,
shit.
It does in other mythologies.
Like for decades.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of vampire, right? Because I think if like in American Vampire, it's a whole like biology based thing.
Yeah.
So
I think in other mythologies, if you go to something else, let's say the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there's a supernatural element to it, so it does kind of cure everything. Whereas here, maybe it doesn't because it's more of a virus thing that's spreading.
Yeah, if it's a virus though, but if a virus goes through and it amps up your system to allow it to heal quicker, that would check out.
Yeah. So basically, she tries to convince Henry to, go and perform, because, he was a guitarist, that's how she met him. He was a bit of a busker. And it's like, hey, you still got it in, you can still perform. I'd love to see you play some music. So their stuff is basically, this constant fear. There's kind of like a very vivid sex scene, which is actually a nightmare sequence where she eventually bites him. And so it's this idea that he's living with both the temptation and the fear of this happening someday, and the ticking time clock. But we keep cutting back to Hattie, who it manages to break out and basically is able to do so because every new year this vampire gets drunk, and the only way they can get drunk in this universe is by drinking the blood of someone who's already drunk. So
it should be pretty easy to find someone like that on New Year's.
Yeah, so he comes back drunk, but he leaves the cork of a bottle because he tries to drink more booze, but he doesn't like it because he's a vampire. He spits it out in disgust. and she uses the cork, which is wood, on a bone that she has down there from a previous animal she's eaten, to kill this vampire and break free. So we have the happiness of, Pearl and Henry, although they do have like a little encounter at the end when the old guy he knows that got him this gig turns out to be a group of vampires, and we see Pearl go into vamp mode to like take them on. But the thing that's really important is that Hattie is free, and we have like literally the shot of her walking from the building on fire, because it turns out she was underneath a gas station for some reason. That's just what this guy was. But she sets the whole thing on fire and walks away, basically with like, I'm coming to like ruin Pearl's life, which makes me and so I don't remember where this goes, but even just from this issue, I get this sense of dread of like, Henry's really probably going to die here. Like I'm a little worried for him, because it feels like that's the way you're going to hurt her, as big and after. So, but the actual cliffhanger page is Pearl vamping out and taking on these vampires at this country club or music club or whatever it is, and that's the end of the issue. The art's interesting because it's not
Albuquerque.
It's not Albuquerque. Yeah, that's 2-issue arc, which is probably why it's a 2-issue arc, is to sort of separate the artists a little bit easier.
Essentially a fill-in arc, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's also very important to the characters, so it's not a fill-in in the sense that, because with superheroes, they'll do a little standalone story, it doesn't mean anything. It's like, yeah, you could skip it, it wouldn't matter.
This isn't like that Aquaman arc.
No.
This is actually still important to the overall mythos of the characters. It's Matthias Santoloco, who's on the art in this one. And the art's pretty solid. It's definitely not as good as Albuquerque. I find some of the faces to be a little bit more loose, I guess, would be how I'd describe it. But
to be fair to him,
yeah,
few people are as good as Albuquerque.
That's fair. For the most part, though, it is actually still pretty solid, though. It does have a sort of dark, inky scratchiness to it, which lends itself to the horror of American Vampire. It does tend to fare better in the shadows and stuff like that. I think, actually, honestly, the worst part about it is Hattie has this sort of scarring on her face, and for some reason, that makes her look a bit weird, and not in a way that I think the scarring is supposed to make her look weird. It feels like, I don't know, like, I feel like all the other faces look quite natural and feel like faces, whereas her face feels kind of odd, and it's almost this weird disconnect by putting this extra element on it that's supposed to be an injury. Feels less like an injury and more like it's just dodgier art. So it's this weird fine line that's kind of not there, but otherwise though it's pretty solid. And yeah, it's an exciting issue. You feel the dread of Hattie coming in, this being kind of the end of a chapter in Pearl's life. She's had 10 years of happiness and it's probably all about to come crashing down. So that's issue 10 of American Vampire. And from rating this, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. So there you go. That's issue 10. So that'll take us out of the part of the show. We pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel / moment, favourite art, favourite, well, what did I skip? Cover, that's the one. And top 5 books of the week. So, Matt, why don't you start us off with favourite panel / moment?
Do you guys want to guess what mine is?
It's definitely one of the Flash moments.
Yeah.
Are you going to steal mine? I don't know, that's the question.
I feel like there's there's like a 60% chance we all have the same moment here.
Very possible.
So mine's definitely from Speed Metal.
Yeah.
And it's Wally reciting the equation.
Oh no, okay.
Of course.
Yep.
That's fine. Well, I'll do it next just in case Connor does have mine, which is Wally getting his proper suit back.
Yeah, I'm already having that. It's fine. We can have the same one this time. Nothing else came close.
Yeah, that was definitely the moment. That was the moment. Although Connor seemingly dying was also pretty good.
I hate you.
At the hands of a corrupt Superman.
He was a corrupt Superman. You can't tell me otherwise.
If you didn't listen to the Action Comics discussion and you're just hearing this part at the end because you listened to other parts of the show,
it got pretty heated.
Yeah, go back and listen to the Action Comics section because
it did not get that heated. We got discussing, but I didn't yell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if heated is the right phrase. I mean, I was in hysterics by the end with Matt trying to defend
in the context of the discussions that usually happen on Action Comics.
Yes. So. Anyway, yes, best cover of the week that is up next. And I was looking through some of these as you guys were talking about Justice League Dark. The Flash variant is very pretty, as a lot of them have been recently. And Hayek Lee, if I'm saying that right. His covers have been very painted. He's had a series of them up until now. The action variant's very good too. Lee Weeks on Batman Superman variant's very good. I think both Shazam covers are really good. But honestly, I have to give it to the regular Suicide Squad cover. I think the simple red and black, which is largely there because of Harley's color scheme, but then you've just got the white for the background and her skin tone.
Also it fits with the Deadshot.
Yeah,
those are the same colors. So.
Yeah, so it's just black, white, and red are the only colors on that page, and it looks really nice. It's really simple and stark. So I love how I said like 5 variants, but then no, for once a regular cover's taking it for me. So there you go, Suicide Squad. Connor, what's your variant or cover of the week rather?
Well, yeah, it might not be a variant.
It's usually a variant, but
it usually is. But honestly, there are 3 covers that I've narrowed it down to that are like the peak covers for me this week, and it says a lot that neither of them are the Lee, none of them are the Lee Weeks cover or even the Manipul Shazam. They're not in my top 3 cut here. Because for me, it's down to the Justice League Dark variant, which I guess I can see the faces might be a little bit too anime for Pete. The Aquaman variant, which is a gorgeous Tyler Kirkham, and then I think I really like the Flash, the regular cover. I really like all the white negative space and the way that works. So I might actually go with the regular Flash cover. So that's 2 regular covers in a row.
All right, Matt. So what's your favorite cover of the week, and why is it the Action Comics Romita Jr. cover?
No, it's not. I specifically gave that back to my shop and go, don't you ever give that to me again. Give me the variant every time you see. I know it's the Suicide Squad regular cover. Their variant's pretty good too. It's like a group shot of all of them, and it looks real nice. But yeah, it's Suicide Squad.
Pretty good week for covers all around, actually.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good ones. I mean, between us, we probably listed 8 or 10.
Most of them were Pete, though.
It just occurred. Yeah, I mean, I listed a lot, but it just occurred to me that there's actually more of a corrupt Superman in Suicide Squad than there is in Action Comics. I'm thinking.
I mean, that's not really Superman. That's Black Mask. So
yeah, well, it wasn't really Superman. In Action Comics
yeah,
either.
it was Parasite. Yeah.
Right, but Black Mask didn't have Superman's powers, so he just looked like him.
Yeah, but he at least pretended to be him for a bit, which is more than this Parasite could say. Anyway, best art of the week. On you go, Connor.
It's Suicide Squad. Yeah, Redondo kills it.
Fair. Matt?
Suicide Squad.
I'll be honest, I didn't think about this in advance.
And then you and Matt were too quick.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable pick. I'm just scanning the rest to see if anything else was. Yeah, Suicide Squad. All right, top 5 books of the week. Matt, go.
So number 1 is Suicide Squad. 2 is Speed Metal. 3 is Justice League Dark. 4. Well, no, hold on. Suicide Squad, Flash, Speed Metal, Justice League Dark, and then that leaves Batman Superman.
Yes, but your corrupted number 1 was Action Comics.
Yeah, nope.
Connor?
For me, it's Justice League Dark, then Suicide Squad, then Speed Metal and Batman Superman.
I will probably go Suicide Squad number 1, Speed Metal number 2. No, that was an attempt at holding in a hiccup. Number 3, I'll go with. Number 3. I'll say Batman Superman. Number 4, I'll go with The Flash. Number 5, Shazam. Yeah. Okay, there you go. I think about that. Yeah. So DC actually, for a change, did something reasonable with their schedule. And they actually kind of, because there's a few books that should have been this week, but they actually pushed a few of them to the 5th week, because Wonder Woman's usually this week. And I thought, oh, that actually, made both weeks a bit more even than just dumping, having a big week 4 and then week 5 being almost nothing.
Week 5 is actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah. So which leads me on to telling you what's coming next week. So we have Wonder Woman 763. We have the Justice League Annual Issue 2. Which actually, that's
the Venditti murder mystery that me and Matt are quite excited.
Yeah, I'll read that. We have Batman 3 Jokers Issue 2, Red Hood Outlaw 49. God, I was looking forward to Batman
Not for
Superman.
another month on that.
Yeah, Batman Superman Annual issue 1, which Matt mentioned earlier on the show. We got Dark Knight's Death Metal Multiverse's End issue 1, so we got another metal tie-in, which is cool.
It's a Tynan one. I don't really remember it, except it has a phenomenal Captain Carrot variant, which I recommend you all check out.
We have Batman the Joker Warzone issue 1, so this is the one shot that ties into Joker War and does have the Batgirl stuff in it, which I was very excited about when this was first teased.
Also has the Ridley first story or whatever, setting up whatever he's going to be doing with, his stuff.
Yeah, so that's a couple of. So we got a big multiverse or big metal tie-in, big Joker War tie-in that's teasing some more Bat stuff, and a new Joker's issue. So there's actually some pretty juicy stuff next week in terms of.
And there's still at least one more thing that you're supposed to be reading.
Well, I was going to read Just Consistently Hellblazer issue 10, but there's also Legion of Superheroes issue 9, Harley Quinn the Birds of Prey issue 3, and apparently Wonder Woman 1984 issue 1 is.
It is. Stores have said they're getting it. I guess they just went, screw it. It might be 2084 before the movie comes out, so we might as well.
Yeah. So that's all coming out. I mean, I'll admit the chances of me reading Legion right now are probably quite slim.
That's fair. I'll read it.
This is the second issue of all the one-page things, right? Yeah.
Yep, and this one's gonna have the Garrett's art.
That's the final page, right?
I think so.
Because I think Shayna had the first page of the first one.
Yep.
I think they made a point of saying they were the team bookending the story. We're quite proud of that.
Yeah, I have 6 books next week, but it's notable that only one of them is regular sized. Like 2 of them are annuals, and the other 3 are all either annual or bigger size. So plenty to read next week.
Actually, quite a bit.
So that's coming next week. So it's do you know what? I like when week 5 doesn't just feel like a weird add-on week where everything's just kind of, because you could argue that the Batman Superman Annual feels kind of just like a tacked on thing, but it sounds like a fun story at least. But there is actually meaty, like big continuity stuff next week too. It's not just
and then 3 Jokers, which may or may not be continuity. Who knows?
Well, yeah, but it still feels important because it's been something we've all been talking about for a while. Yeah, the point I'm making, it doesn't feel like a filler week, which week 5s I think sometimes feel like
they often do. I think they've been better the last couple of years. I think the first 2 or 3 years of Rebirth they felt like dire.
But oh well. So that's that. I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much to them. You can support us at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. At the $5 tier specifically, you get early access to Comics from the Multiverse by 1 day, as well as previously when we got one of those coming out. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in supporting everything we do and help keep all the content coming. You can do that to obviously a lesser degree, but it's still really important, is hitting the like button on the YouTube version, or rating the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Give us 5 stars, all that kind of thing. And all that does help.
Wait, you mean I can't find actual comics on this? This is just a review?
Matt's alluding to a tweet that I put out last night of someone complaining on YouTube about a TV episode review. Apparently the word review is too hard to understand for some people, and they're shocked that it's not the actual episode of TV. I'm sorry the word review in the title and the thumbnail was too hard to decipher, but...
And they also watched it because they got mad at your opinions about said episode, which means you were looking for an episode of The Twilight Zone, but you watched the review and they got mad at the review.
3 minutes of it, according to them, is all they watched.
Yeah. And I replied rather sarcastically. I used to not reply to these things, but it's starting to annoy me so much that I'm just a dick about it now.
And this isn't one that they're just like, oh, you're wrong. This is like, no, they're complaining about the wrong thing. Like, so yes, you should be able to respond to that.
Dear. Anyway, so yeah, please do show your support in all those different ways. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. But I think that's just about it. Yeah, that's everything. So, So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Although, in the Speed Force could be a corrupted Superman for all you know.